from everything. Stay.
I used to think that was the campiest movie in the world, and now I really can kind of get behind 300. There was a time I thought that was very contrived. I don't think that anymore. Welcome, live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Southern Command Center, Red One Studio. Welcome. Oh, man. Apparently we're having trouble with Facebook right now, but you watch Facebook's for old people. Facebook for old people. You know I'm right. Oh boy. You ready for some casual sex? How many people are into sport fucking? I'm sorry you were born without the sport fucking gene. Well, I'm going to piss off a lot of people today, Kyle. Producer Kyle's in the navigator spot today, so put respect on his name. Yeah. There we go. Oh boy. Oops, wait a minute.
The guys start just talking to prettier girls, your life is easier. I know this is the opposite of what you've heard before. I'm not saying there isn't some chaos involved with them. What I'm saying is, like, it is these mid-tier girls that think because they have doctored their photos using FaceApp and Facetune that they're actually a 10, and they treat you like they're actually a 10. Of course, all girls that are attractive are going to give you some chaos. I'm not saying that's not the case. What I'm saying is, what I found is the opposite. There's this mid-tier where I have problems, and when I get to this like upper level, like hottest girls, I actually have no issues at all. It's so smooth. They show up on the guest list. They're doing red carpet photo shoots, or they're texting you back immediately. They're never doing no call, no show. The hottest girls, they're the ones who are doing this.
To the comment section, I'm Red Cooper. So I am sure y'all know about the red pill bro manosphere culture, whatever you want to call it. These are people online, mainly on Twitter and on their own podcasts, who claim that women are unredeemable, marriage is a sham, there's no good reason for a man to get married in 2024. They give men terrible advice, superficial advice on how to be masculine and alpha. Newsflash, men. Most of that advice would give normal women the ick. Ew, no, David. Now, anyway, one of the biggest podcasts in this space is...
Actually, no, it wouldn't, because being a nice guy, we see what goes wrong with that. Let's pull up the Twitter link real fast.
Pull
As
it
you guys
up.
know, this is trending all over the fucking internet, by the way. And I hate to say that I'm always right when it comes to this stuff, because you're
still that line, Myers.
Your advice, bro, doesn't play all the time. Look at this. Kaka's ex-wife, interesting name, on why she divorced him back in 2015. Kaka,
that wasn't wrong. I said it right.
He treated me well. He gave me a wonderful family.
But it should have betrayed
I
her.
was not happy. Something was missing. The problem was he was too perfect for me.
Wow.
Too perfect.
Thing that you wish men knew about women.
I wish men knew that women have 4 different personalities any given month because of the way that our cycles work, because you understand at different times of the month what your partner will need emotionally and also physically. And also you can take advantage of that because you know when she's going to be in the mood to have sex.
Sounds an awful lot like dual mating strategy.
Don't spend time with people that hate themselves. Now, people that hate themselves are going to drink themselves into a stupor. They're going to eat garbage food. They're not going to exercise. They're not going to want to go outside and get sun and do things. They're going to lay around and want to play video games or watch movies or, I don't know, do stuff that's going to waste away their bodies, waste away their life. They have no purpose. If you love yourself, you take care of yourself. You don't just say, I'm perfect just the way I am. No, you actually have to step up to the plate and actually invest in yourself.
I have to get this guy in here.
If you truly love yourself, you're going to go to the fucking gym, you're going to eat some fucking steak, and you're going to make amazing gains and feel great. You're going to get quality sleep, you're going to go out in the sun, touch grass, go play with your dogs, go for a walk. You're going to want to improve yourself. You're going to want to read books, listen to podcasts, educate yourself, learn, and constantly develop and invest. That's what happens if you love yourself. The question is, do you truly love yourself?
Big dumb cups. It's more than just a cup. It's a big cup. Is there a void in your life? Fill it with cup. Big dumb cup. Have women killed for this cup? Almost, and a bunch. This is the cup that says I'm a virgin, but I also have 6 kids. It's the cup that says my favorite rapper, that's Kesha. And it says to the world, when Trader Joe's drops a new snack, I touch myself. And it's the cup that says I start decorating for Christmas tomorrow. Big dumb cup. You can really taste the bacteria. I'm getting lead.
When I was in college, I broke up with 3 girls, I think, in the space of 6 months, something like that. They were relatively short-term. Broke up with 3 girls, I think, in
Anybody believe this? Because I sure the fuck don't.
the space of 6 months, something like that. They were relatively short-term relationships, but they all ended the same way, more or less. And I don't even remember the details. But I thought, oh, that's not them, that's me. And, it took me a while to sort out what it was. Part of it was that I had a tendency to, this is very common. In fact, I'm sure it's overwhelmingly the norm. Maybe women do this too. God only knows what women do. But I had a tendency to put any woman that I was attracted to on a pedestal. And that was hard on her. And also, put me in a demeaned position immediately, which was also not attractive, by the way.
Oh, we'll be coming back to that one, Dr. Peterson.
And divorce less often than their less devout peers. Why do you think that is?
Christians know that divorce is not an option. So these men that we have that are absolutely afraid of getting married because they think every woman is going to take their money and the kids and run, my advice would be make sure you're marrying a real Christian.
There it is. The Orthodox paradox, my friend.
Absolutely hate the red pill movement. And as time has gone on, and this
Okay, chat, I want to know what you would cook on this girl's forehead.
movement has grown in size and in popularity. What is becoming
You mean like your forehead?
more and more clear to me is that predatory people, predatory leaders at the top of this movement are taking advantage of the fact that there's a lot of really, really lost men in society who do require direction, who do require role models, who do require some assistance when it comes to courting the opposite sex and having happy, healthy relationships with the opposite sex.
Word.
But what they're instead getting is unfiltered anti-female rhetoric, and there is absolutely no way that is going to have a net societal benefit.
And if I say this
No way.
in a semi-English accent, you'll think I'm a little more legitimate.
And the irony is that the leaders of these ideological groups will say things like, oh, women are scum-sucking road whores who are going to take all of your money and
I'm sorry, which leaders of the movement are saying you're scum-sucking road whores?
suck all of your wealth. They're all gold diggers who are going to take your future gold from you, while simultaneously asking you for money and asking you to buy their books and their programs and sign up to their courses that they know have no tangible real-world benefits for you. They are the gold diggers. And instead of seeing
Why? Whoever could she be talking about, Kyle?
this for what it is, people continue to engage with this terrible group of people, this terrible ideology that will ultimately keep you in a victimhood loop and ultimately mean that you will end up alone.
You'll ultimately end up alone. Oh no! My stars and garters, I might end up alone. That's funny because apparently that's the optimal situation for women, right? I mean, because alone women, like, remember, I mean, I could probably go look this up right now, but women who are alone with single, childless, making the bag, everything else, they're the happiest demographic of well, certainly the United States and probably Western developed nations as well, right? Because we see an article damn near every other week about how happy women are because they don't have any kids. We're going to dig into that a little bit today. How are you guys doing? Nice to see you. No, I don't have sound drops just yet. We're still getting a lot of fucking echo, and I got to figure out how to do this because every time we try to do this, it works out fine until we start StreamYard, and then StreamYard, for whatever reason, like recycles these things. So, but anyways, I did manage to get in the 300 in introduction today. So, right from the jump here, right from the rip, man, I wanted to say a big shout out, because we give shout outs here. A big shout out to Dr. with a DR, Sydney Watson, because Sydney's been making the rounds with bullshit like this for quite some time. So right from the rip here, I'm gonna have to I gotta call out Sydney. Sid, you and I know each other. I was on your show actually twice when you had remember that show you used to have on the Blaze? It was called You Are Here with a certain individual. I think his name was Elijah Schaefer. Yeah, that guy. And oddly enough, the week after that, that's when a individual by the name of Jack Murphy happened to be on your show as well. And if there's any bitterness towards the red pill, I think I know the date that it started, which must have been the second week, I guess, of December of 2021, because it was the week directly after the show that I was on. And it seemed to me at that time, we had some pretty good conversations. And so now I'm a little bit confused, because to me, when I hear Sydney Watson talking shit about the red pill, I'm like, well, it seemed to me that back in 2021 anyways, there wasn't much shit talking at that time. So apparently it had merit prior to, I don't know, the 2024 election cycle, perhaps. So when I look at this stuff and I see, when I see this constant barrage of trad femmes and Dr. Sydney Watson is one of many right now. I have to look at this and say, well, what's the purpose behind this? Why is everybody, why are these trad femmes, for lack of a better term, trad thoughts, trad femmes, whatever you want to call them? It's this one line after the next of just basically misunderstanding, of a deliberate I should say, it's deliberately misunderstanding the red pill. And you don't know what you're talking about. And the thing that bothers me, if something bothers me about all that, really, I could give two shits, because I know what's going to happen on November 6th. All of this goes away. You go away. All your trad friends go away. Everybody goes away on November 6th, because it will no longer be the topic du jour. So what I'm seeing right now is there's a meme going around on Twitter at this point, and it's probably obviously it's also on Instagram, because that's where I pulled that video from. But there is a demographic of trad femme influencers, otherwise known as sort of pseudo evangelical Christians, for lack of a better term. Although I'm sure there's probably some Orthodox, there's probably some Catholics too. I've got to include everybody there, of course. But the main gist of it is that the red pill guys are ruining Western society, and they're the cause of all degeneration. And it's getting to the point where if your dog dies, it must have been one of those red pill guys that had something to do with it. And really what I'm seeing right now is the most recent meme that's going around is the polls between the straw polls. I don't know what the fuck polls, the pew polls between Biden and Trump, which, by the way, oh boy, another Biden and Trump election. Great. I can hardly wait for this one too. Right. But apparently Biden is supposed to be like 68%, and I don't know, Trump's at 15 or I don't know, whatever the fuck it is. He's at 75 and Trump's at 25. And of course, what's the first thing out of any trad femme's mouth is, I hope you're happy, red pill guys. I'm like, how the fuck are they conflating this outcome with the red pill? Well, that's what they intended to do from day one. I'm not a political guy unless there's some crossover between politics and intersexual dynamics, or religion and intersexual dynamics, or whatever you want, like something that doesn't seem associated with it. I'm not a political guy. I'm not a racial guy. I'm not even a religious guy. I'm not those are not in my wheelhouse. But when intersexual dynamics crosses over into each of those topics, that's when it's game on. And that's when I will step in and I'll say something. So in this case, really what's happening is our political process has become so convoluted and so corrupted right now. And our voting process has become so convoluted and corrupted right now that when we're electioneering and when we're out there trying to, canvass or whatever 20th century term that we're using in the 21st century for our politics still, whenever that is thrown out there and we need to get swing voters and we need to get the female vote and we need to get the black vote and we need to get the Hispanic vote and we need to get, I don't know, whatever vote. Whenever that comes out, there's always a narrative that comes along with it. And right now, what I'm seeing as far as the red pill is concerned is this narrative of plausibility, let's just say, of an outcome. Let's just say if, say, Trump loses, or even Biden loses for that matter, but if your guy loses, you need to have a plausible explanation as to why that guy lost. Well, here's what, when I talk about tilling the fields, this is what they're doing. They're tilling the fields at this point. So apparently the narrative du jour is that the red pill guys, those nebulous guys who seem to want to sell books, and those nebulous guys who are, I don't know, in some way profiteering off of lonely incel men, which of course comes back to the incel studies, all of those guys are in some way driving away the female vote. Well, I can show you in no uncertain terms that you are 100% patently, empirically, provably fucking wrong, Dr. Sydney Watson. Can prove to you, and I will today, why you are completely mistaken about that. But it doesn't matter. It makes no fucking difference anyways, because you're not going to respond. You won't stand up to a fucking challenge, and neither will any of your fucking trad thought girlfriends either. All they do is drive by, shit talking tweets. It's just, you're just shit posting. That's a POAST. You're shit posting on Twitter. And what you're doing is building a narrative. So when you're talking about how the red pill does this or the red pill does that, and they're building up this narrative and they're micro cults or whatever else, you're basically doing the same thing. You're engaging in the same thing that you're accusing the red pill of doing. So really what our political process has become, or our voting process, or this electioneering process has become, is not about voting for something or even voting against something. It's about creating a narrative, a plausible narrative for why your guy fucking lost. And that's what you're doing right now. So if Trump loses, guess who's going to be the person that they're going to say caused it all? Those red pill guys, guaranteed. They're already tilling the fields. That's the fix is already fucking in. So, and if Biden wins, well, it's because of some triumph over the red pill. It's unfalsifiable. It's easy to fucking construct, and it's easy to get behind, especially if you're one of these power mom trad wives right now. And guys, if you're a Christian and your wife is doing this, get your bitches in pocket, please. Please get them. Come get your bitch now. She's done, because she doesn't know what she's talking about. And then second of all, even if she did know what she was talking about, she lacks the conviction to go and defend anything that she's asserting right now. So Sydney, once again, I will give you the challenge. Come here, sit at this. Look how beautiful this. We got 3 fucking cameras right now. I'm sure one of those will be your perfect angle to get that forehead. one of these cameras will be the perfect angle for you in Las Vegas. Come out here. Sit across the table from me, sit across the table from me and Mike, sit across the we will give you the most respectful challenge that you can defend on your own. And I will tell you right now, you won't do it. You won't do it. None of these bitches will do it, because you don't believe in what you're saying. All it is content for you. And you are just as guilty of the shit that you're accusing these guys of doing and setting a narrative and trying to sell things. You're selling yourself. You're selling your personal brand as an influencer, essentially. So when you go and you toss shit out there, and if you're going to say the red pill's satanic, the red pill is anti-God, the red pill is just feminism for men, if you're going to say that, then you better have the conviction to back that up. Because if you don't, your words, your convictions are just as empty as the faith that it's based on. So if you're going to come here and tell me and make moral accusations, if you're going to base your hatred of, which she says, your hatred of the red pill based on moral principles, then you should be in the right, correct? You should jump at the fucking chance to come and defend those, to defend your assertions, but you won't, because you're a fucking coward. Just like all the guys that back you up, just like all the women that back you up, they're cowards too. They're cowards for following someone who doesn't live by her fucking convictions. So come here to Las Vegas. You want me to come out there? I'll go out there for you, as long as it's live. I'll come to you. I will fucking be the first one to tell you you are fucking wrong. Absolutely 100% wrong. So I'm sick of hearing this bullshit from everyone on Twitter, certainly from the moral fags on Twitter. I'm going to say it here. all of this moralism that's coming out, it's based on nothing, based on empty faith. Your faith in your God is just as empty as your fucking convictions until you sit down and until you defend them. And until you're willing to do that, shut the fuck up. No one needs to hear from you, and you'll be gone as quick as you came on November 6th, the day after the election. There, I'm done. What do we got here? Already got 3. Look at this. King, that'd be me. I'll buy your first book this year. Why are you watching this if you haven't bought the book? However, I'm timorous. Well done. Bravo. I'm glad you've got a thesaurus. Because I know that is heavy metal material. Okay. So any advice to me? I'm not sure what advice you need. Jay-Z said it best. If it ain't directed directly at me, I don't respect it. It's simple. If the RP is foolish and wrong, expose it in a live debate. They won't. They simply won't. They don't have the balls to. First of all, they're cowards. Second of all, they don't. I think they know what they're talking about. They just don't have any. It's just easier to throw out like cheap content. Your life is fucking cheap content. Sydney Watson, your fucking life is cheap. You're cheap. Everything you say and comes out of your mouth is fucking cheap until you're willing to sit down and defend it, and you won't. Simple as that. You certainly won't against anybody who knows what the fuck they're doing. You probably will. I don't know. Kyle, have you heard this? Like Pearl Davis is supposed to be having some sort of like conflict or some sort of debate with Sydney Watson right now. Yeah. Which, by the way, all I can think of is that Godzilla line. You know, let them fight. Let them fight. But then I think about it and I go, all that would do would be to further convolute what people think the red pill is. Yeah. Because I'm sick to death of seeing pictures of like Andrew Tate and Pearl Davis as being like the faces of the red pill. I'm sick to death of hearing it being cast as a fucking movement. I'm sick to death of people trying to characterize it as something it's completely not. And it's easy to contradict these people. It's easy to confound them, but they don't care. They're on to the next one. And I guarantee you what will happen is she'll completely ignore this, and then she'll probably move on to the next thing. She'll just move on to the next one or wait a few days and then come out with the next hot take. So until you're willing to defend your because I'll tell you this right now, anybody who wants it, people keep saying, oh, Rollo doesn't debate anybody. He blows. No, bitch. I have been putting out this challenge ever since, November of 2022. And that's when Mike and I started doing Access Vegas, was October of 2022. And then Mike says, you need to start debating these people. We have the place to do it. We have Vegas. We have Sticky Paws. We can do it live. We can simulcast it. And we can have a live chat going, and we can do like real-time live engagement, which, by the way, I'm planning on doing very soon. In fact, I might even toy with it on today's show. So bear with me for a moment. And I thought about that, and this was right around the time that I had done Dr. Phil. And I thought about it, and people kept telling me I shouldn't go on Dr. Phil. Why would you go on Dr. Phil? You'll ruin your career. That's a bad look, Rollo. You know how many times people have told me it's a bad look? Kyle, do you remember when I did the interview with Richard Hart from Hex? That's the first thing people said. That's a bad look, Rollo. You shouldn't be interviewing that guy. He's a snake oil salesman. It's one of the best shows I ever fucking did. Yeah. And they said the same thing of what Richard Reeves, right? Wow, you didn't beat him up. You didn't draw blood when you were debating Richard Reeves. I'm like, that's because we actually had a productive, good fucking conversation. Also, like when it maybe more recently, myself, Myron, Fresh, Marquette, Aaron Clary, Mike Sartain, and Jake Shields. We didn't have any girls on the show. It was just us guys doing it. It was one of the best watched, most productive shows we ever did. We didn't have a panel of girls. It was technically, I guess it was Access Vegas, but it was just the guys at that point. And when we do stuff like that, when we do educational stuff, when we get down to it and we're actually having this back and forth, we're doing a great show. And the people who know us want to say, hey man, keep doing more of these. We love this shit. We want more interviews with you and Myron, like where it's just one-on-one and you don't have to worry about some girl getting castled or some shit like that. And they're great. You know who's not watching those? People like fucking Sydney Watson. You know who's not watching those? People who want to give the red pill shit. They don't watch those. They only watch it when they only watch the 45-second buzz clip when Myron kicks some girl who's probably like 3 or 4 White Claws in, kicks her off. And everybody thinks that that's what the red pill is because it's easier and it's cheaper content because it's cheap content for cheap people. Let's see. You Putin on muscle last Putin on Putin. You Putin on I'm Putin on muscle. Yes. Since the last couple of years, Rolo. Well, yeah, about a year and a half. I guess 2 years. Maybe you're right. Thank you. Thank you very much. It helps that I have a good friend. His name is Hide Yamagishi. Go look him up. If you guys keep dating these hyper-masculine Western women, doesn't that make them gay? Really, motherfucker? Also, I thought I'd let you know that TRT is effective birth control for men. You're welcome. Great. Is it? Why? Because you can't get it hard on? No, quite honestly, I need pills to make this shit go down. Not.
You can still have kids on tier 2.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can. I know that guys like who do tren, it fucks up their genetics and they like can't have kids. But dude, I'm 56 years old. If I start doing like now's the time for me to start doing tren. Not when I was like 25. All that shit's over. I don't have to worry about that crap anymore. Should we reject women in their epiphany phase? Good question. You know what? Let me hang on to that one. I'll come back to it. Hey, just some guy. Thank you for that. Don DeMarco. Sorry, still don't have my sound drops. I will when I come back next time. I think we're going to resolve this by me getting one of those small boards, one of those Rode Procaster boards. I think we'll solve the problem. Just spend more money and it will solve the problem. Rolo, finally, you brought this topic, friends with benefits, because most of the time it's always a guy being friend zoned. Thank you. Yeah. I want it again. Like I had to start with fucking Sydney Watson. I apologize for that, but I had to get that out of my under my fucking skin and out of my bloodstream first. Because as you know, I'm trying to get back to some more nuts and bolts, topics. And this, I think, is one of them. I actually had a request to do this, and I don't think I have ever done a show on friends with benefits. So, and it's something that I have a personal. Actually, I probably got about 4 different stories about it. I hate to use myself as like an anecdote, but I'm going to break protocol on this show. Ever watch John Deloney? Do you know who John Deloney is?
No.
Kyle, look him up real quick.
All right, say less.
See what you can find out on that guy. I feel like I'm starting to become like the red pill version of Steven Crowder. It's like I got my team in the control room, my one man team in the control room. I like being able to bounce ideas off of people. It's pretty cool. What do we got?
Dr. John Deloney?
What is he?
He's a Dr. John Deloney, where
John Deloney, is that what it was? Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, he's a co-host of the Ramsey Show.
Which show?
The Ramsey Show.
Like the Dave Ramsey Show?
I think it's the Dave Ramsey Show. Yeah, he's a Dave Ramsey Show.
I'll have to look it up. I'll have to look him up, but I promise I will. I don't know who he is. What irritates me about people who think Sydney they were all for women breaking social contact and its expectations of women, yet they want men to adhere to it so they can reap the benefits. Of course. Well, I mean, that's... I wrote about that on Substack just this last week, as a matter of fact, is nobody cares about men's issues or anything that men are going through. I think there's this sort of token effort. It's popular even amongst the left because, I mean, and I actually kind of like Richard Reeves. I just think it's going to take him time to sort of come to where the red pill is right now. Like I keep seeing him going through the process of sort of like sorting out like the education system and how we like raise our boys as if they're defective girls, and looking at just sort of the statistics of education, of sort of income, basically what really Dr. Warren Farrell and really maybe to a lesser degree Jordan Peterson have been sort of tracking for a long time. Or I guess MRAs have been doing this too. I've been tracking for a long time, all the like the 70s, the gender wage gap, which is complete mythology. But now it takes a guy from the Brookings Institute, which is a very liberal progressive think tank. It's becomes so unignorable that a guy like that, like Richard Reeves, is now like, well, I guess you're right. Now we better sort this out. I think their analysis, and I think these guys' diagnosis is basically what the red pill has been talking about since 2009. But their solution, their cure for it, their prescription for it is completely nonsense because it's all based in blank slateism, more or less. But when I was talking, I did a real. If you haven't subscribed to my Substack, please do. It's the third link down in the description, which is going pretty big. I was very surprised. The last article I did was what was it? Marriages for elites. Basically, it's a concept that Dalrock was sort of exploring back in, I think, 2014, 2015. And I came back to it, especially now, because really marriage has become something where only elite men are allowed to be marriageable at this point. And I thought it kind of dovetailed nicely into what Dalrock was saying back in like 2015 about how men have to be like you've probably heard this a million times on Fresh and Fit or my show or wherever else, but average men or average women do not want to get with average men. So therefore you have to be an elite level man to be marriageable in the first place. And I got into that. And I also got into primarily the, not so much men not living up to marriage in the first place, but women don't want to get married as it is. And I don't think we're even like exploring that. So that's what I talked about in my most recent, it's a Substack, my Substack article. It's called "Marriage is Settling," and the reason I titled it that was because something's been making. It's an old book. It's a 2011 book about like marry him girl or like settle for him girl. I forget the name of the title of the book, but it was written and published in the same year that my book, the first book, Rational Male, was in 2011. And it was essentially, I say encouraging, but explaining like why women don't want to settle and how this narrative of a woman settling, quote unquote, settling on a guy is failure in girl world, in a gynocentric social, or a woman who's just kind of going, yeah, he'll do. If telling a woman to settle on a guy who isn't the best she could do is like telling her she should sign up for her own sexual assault, her own rape, essentially, is what it is. And the reason why that is because she would have to have sex with a guy that she was less than enthusiastic to have sex with. And of course, if any sex a woman doesn't want to have is, by girl world definition, EPAR. Sorry, I shouldn't say the R word, but it is tantamount to grape. And what I found interesting is that this is a book that was 10 and a half years ago published, and pretty much everything that was documented in that book has come to pass, and we're still no closer to anyone coming together with respect to marriage or long-term relationships, because there's not a guy on planet Earth that is perfect enough for the average woman on planet Earth. So I know I hate to keep using Jason Momoa and Justin Waller, and now I get to use Jack Reacher, I guess, because he's the new hotness. But there's only so many of those guys to go around. Anybody who doesn't measure up to those guys is officially settling. And the barrier to entry to being marriageable has become so ludicrously high right now that I would attribute a lot of the decline in marriage to this increase in not settling. And I'll read a little bit of that to you guys today too. I think it was really interesting. And the reason why I'm going to read it to you is because I'm going to make a very bold proposal today. And that proposal is that friends with benefits, fuck buddies, casual sex is actually, I think, is probably going to be the solution that most women resort to going forward. And I would also argue that it's probably the best, most tenable situation for women today. I'm being sarcastic. Yes, I'm being a little bit facetious about all of this, but sort of. And the reason why I say that is because when men are superfluous, when men are just sort of redundant, when it's like, well, they're nice to have around, but they're not actually necessary. Or the perception is that men are superfluous. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying the perception is that men are just sort of there. And if a woman is not 100%, like if that guy doesn't answer the hypergamous doubt question, which is he the best I can do? Then he ends up being the one she settled for. And then you open a whole nother can of worms, which is like the alpha widow dynamic. Then you got the war brides dynamic. Then there's so many different things that sort of get attached to that. This is me being a little bit more holistic when it comes to the red pill. I've got two irons in the fire as far as books are concerned. One of them is the holistic approach to the red pill, and then there's red pill maxims. And I might even combine the two of those in one book because there's so many that relate to one another that it just might be a good combination. But the holistic approach is that because the average woman doesn't want to get with the average man, what that means is when she does, it feels like she's settling. It feels like she's not getting she's going into it knowing that he's not the best that she could do, at least in that particular moment, or perceptually speaking. Are their egos overinflated because of social media? Absolutely. Is there a choice paradox for women because of the global sexual marketplace? Yes. Is there are these women who think they're like 8s and 9s? Are they actually 8s and 9s? And should they lower their standards? Just me even saying lower your standards, or even a woman saying women need to lower their standards, that is like saying you should sign up for your own grape. That's like saying you should get with a guy who is less than ideal for you. In a world, in a gynocentric social order that for the last 4 generations has told women they only deserve the fucking best. And if they can't get that, then they got to do it themselves. So that's exactly what they do. That's why they go into education at higher rates, or they enrollment and graduation at higher rates. That's why they're making more money. That's why they're owning more homes. That's why they're putting money away. That's why we look at them and we say, oh, well, they've become the men that they wanted to marry. Well, guess what? When you become the man you want to marry, any other guy who doesn't measure up to the man that you have become, ladies, he is the one you're settling for. So what's left? Women don't need a man. They want a man. Who do they want? They want a guy who lays down the fucking good dick and goes away, which is exactly the situation for a fuck buddy, for casual sex, for friends with benefits. I think I'm just going to call it friends with benefits for the time being, because I think that there should be a distinction that's made between casual sex and friends with benefits. You can say fuck buddy. Okay. That's what we used to say back in the 90s. Right. And I think that if there's an ability on the part of women to separate sex from emotion, because if you're going to become the man that you wanted to marry and you're masculinizing yourself, along with that, holistically speaking, comes the ability to separate emotion and sex. Now, women would probably have to try harder to do that. They would probably have to condition themselves much more to do that. And there are many women that do that. There are many women that make a living off of their ability to separate emotion from their sexuality and their sexual availability, just like men. So when tradcons say, the red pill is feminism for men, it's not. But part of feminism, at least whether you're conservative or you're a wokesy liberal, is this misunderstanding about sexuality. I think on sort of the wokesy progressive side, it gets too overblown. It's like sex positivity, like sex pos, right? And then on the more conservative side, women, conservative, woke, women want to fuck, okay? They just want to fuck who they want to fuck. They don't want to fuck anything less than the best. So separating emotion from sexuality is something that women have to condition themselves to do, because it's not their starting package. It's not they don't have an innate proclivity for just wanting to for sport fucking, right? Guys have an innate proclivity for sport fucking. And if you don't believe me, just go look at, all I have to do is point to X videos, Pornhub, Tryst.com, skipthegames.com, Ashley Madison, for fuck's sake, right? It's not hard to point out that men, if they could skip the games, right? If they could be sport fucking, they would be sport fucking. Most guys don't because they can't. But what I'm saying is this, is that because of the dynamic between women being able to separate, or at least conditioning themselves subjectively, relatively speaking, to separate sex from emotion, that ability to do that puts them into a position where no guy will do, except for the guy who's just there to lay down the dick and go home. And that's essentially what you have when you have a fuck buddy. Now, I'm not saying there won't be like maybe feelings and emotions don't come as a result of that. But if you're starting out like that, and it's just like, well, I don't need a man, but I want a man. I don't need a man because I have all my long-term security, my beta bucks, long-term security side of my dual mating strategy or my dual mating proclivity already taken care of. If she's already got a good job, she's making the bag, she's got her education, she's as far as provisioning, protection, and parental investment is concerned, and I do mean parental investment because a woman can go down to a fucking fertility clinic and decide that she wants to be a single mother anytime she wants. So that side, all of that side is either actually accounted for, or it is perceptually accounted for. Like they don't actually, maybe they don't have it, like they don't have everything down, but they believe that they could have it down. And sometimes that's enough. So that even that perception that, well, Becky's got it down, so I can probably get it down too. Or if the shit ever hit the fan, then I would think I'd probably be okay. That's why when you see these guys who are like on the street videos and they're like, do women need men? And they're like, fuck no, women don't need men. Fuck no, fuck men. We'll be able, no problem. I get along fine. I don't need no man. I would get along fine with that man. You go ask the same question to guys. Do men need women? And they're like, yeah, if they're hot, yeah, I need a woman. It's like direct polar opposite right there. And using the same terminology, need, not want, need. So really women want men, but perceptually they don't think that they need men, thus making men, the average man, most men, superfluous. Or at least perceptually superfluous. So what's left? Alpha fucks. They want a guy who will come over, lay down good dick that they enjoy having sex with. And also, I should point this out. Well, one of the reasons why I would make the distinction between casual sex and fuck buddies or friends with benefits is because of the friends part of friends with benefits. There's a familiarity. There's a commonness to it. There, this guy. You're secure, right? He's probably, he might be fucking other chicks, but that you're having sex with a friend that you probably know. And so there's at least a rapport of some sort of familiarity that already exists. It means you've had sex with him once before. And if I call him up, he knows it's time for a booty call, right? So when that happens, it's a whole lot different situation than if the girl goes out and meets a guy at a club and it's the same night lay. That's casual sex. But if you know the guy already and it's just like, hey, Netflix and chill, like that's a different dynamic than meeting a guy and just having a same night lay. So I think I needed to make that distinction very, very clear, because the same night lay is not as secure and not as comfortable as, say, the guy that she's already had sex with before, or maybe she's a friend with and say, hey, you want to come over and hook up? I got some Chardonnay and the hot tub's warm, that kind of shit, whatever it is. I'll give you a few stories of my own. I'm going to snitch on myself a little bit here today. I have had 4 fuck buddies in my career. 2 of them, okay. They were kind of here on and off again, but the other 2 of the 4 were a little bit different. And whenever I would get a call from, let's see, Heather or Bridget, those would change names. I'm using Bridget because what was it? No, if you watch Resident Alien, you'll get where the Bridget joke comes from. Bridget. But anyways, so if I got a call from either one of them, I knew, like, just the very fact that I got a call, or if I called them, it was implied just in the fact that I had called. And this is back in the day before we had like cell phones or anything like that. You had to actually physically get on a landline. But if the call came through, or I left a message like, say, hey, call me back. What are you doing Friday? That what are you doing Friday is coded message for let's fuck on Friday. And that it's always basically implied in just the conversation, because once you get into the habit of it, once it becomes sort of a routine or a regular thing for you, like every fuck buddy that I ever had, every booty call that I ever had that's where it comes from, a booty call, was it was fun, but it was fun because it was just like, okay, I've done this before. You can get a little bit more experimentative with that. Like I'm not worried about, I was never, this is back in my rock star 20s. Yes. But I was never worried about, seeing other women as well as my fuck buddy. And as a result of that, it's like, yeah, eventually, like people say, well, you know, eventually somebody's going to catch feelings and then it's going to change the dynamic. And yeah, it could. It didn't in any of the situations that I was in, but I do know that like at least one of them sort of started to catch feelings with me at the end. But then I was moving around. I was so mobile. I was on the road quite a bit at that time. And it was just sort of like, hey, I'm in town. Hey, I'm here now. Hey, this is where I'm at, kind of thing. And it was just like the sure thing. And sometimes that's good. And sometimes it's comfortable. And sometimes it's kind of like you're shooting yourself in the foot. But each one of them understood that like we weren't exclusive. It was just something that we did because we wanted to get off and we have a good time with somebody that we trusted and we knew and we were friends with. So that's basically. And I think when I have described that, or I've talked about this in the past, especially with more moralistic people, they think they want to apply like this real deep meaning to sex. And I think that if you are in a state of sexual deficit, like if you don't know when your next sexual opportunity is going to happen, I think like guys who don't fuck, right? When guys who don't fuck finally fuck, it's like a cosmic conjuncture of planets, and fucking Venus is aligned with Pluto, and the barometric pressure was in perfect balance, and it was like this perfect storm of conditions for these guys, and it has to be because of the gods in heaven above, or fate, or luck, or whatever the fuck it is, like all conspired so that he would get his dick sucked, right? Well, that's one of the reasons why I put Mike Sartain's video on the very first of the intros here is, once you have sex with progressively hotter and hotter women, then you tend to look at sex as really for what it really is, which is not some cosmically meaningful, the planets aligned kind of experience. And it's just like, you know what? I can enjoy this for what it really is. And I think that guys who don't fuck are just so overly concerned with the virtues and the morality of guys who do fuck, because essentially what it is it's just like intrasexual combat. It's intrasexual competition. And of course, if you can disqualify your opponent by gaslighting him into thinking that his sport fucking is in some way morally reprehensible or degenerate, then if he polices himself and his worst instincts, then guess what? Maybe he's not going to lick the ice cream that you could get later on, hopefully when the stars align and the planets are aligned with Pluto, whatever. So let me get to some of these real quick here before I continue. Let's see. McChilla. My brother divorced a year ago. His current girlfriend just moved in with him and openly told the family she plans on being pregnant in the next year. How do I save him from another mistake? Tell him to get a vasectomy, like Fresh should have gotten. People, what? I should just lean into the vest. It was actually like, it was me being sort of facetious and over the top and exaggerating. And this was a year ago, but I should just lean into it now. No, here's what you do. Here's the easiest thing you can do, McChilla. Tell him this is what she plans to do. Are you cool with that? Is this where this is going? Just like, I think sometimes the best medicine is, what do they say? Like sunlight is the best disinfectant, man. Just fucking turn the lights on, man. Tell him what's up. You're not doing him any favors by like keeping it a secret. Amar, no, I've heard you say before that women have 1,000 forms of BC. Oh, birth control. TRT shuts down sperm production. You shoot blanks, bro. Yeah, I shoot a lot of blanks then. Because I'll tell you right now that a lot of interesting biological things happen when you're on TRT. And by the way, it's TRT, man. It's not like I'm on fucking trend. So
it's not even a full dose of what.
Well, and it's funny because I saw this. I think it was like some dude that was on with Chris Williamson, and maybe it was just bad advertising. but I think the title of the video was like the dangers of TRT. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I checked it out and I sent it to Mike because Mike's on TRT too. And he was like, these guys don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But it was actually more sounded like a better advertisement for TRT than it did it for anything else. Like, it's like, yeah, I want to give it a shot. You think Ooh La La by Faces was OG RP song? I have no idea who the fucking Ooh La La was. By the Faces? To look that up. Nightmare. As a guy, the best birth control is being under 6 foot. Hey man, I'm under 6 foot by an inch, but you know, I tell you that there's most definitely a real component to height. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think anybody would believe me if I said height doesn't matter. Height does matter. I don't think it is a deal breaker as much as a lot of people do. I don't think that height is something that is insurmountable unless you're like 4'11", maybe. Then you got your work cut out for you. The average height of the American male is like 5'9". So I'm already above average in that regard. But it doesn't matter because we're in the global sexual marketplace, not the local sexual marketplace. And I used to think this about height. I used to think that, like, my advice, such as it was to guys, was if you're 5'9", start looking for girls who are 5'8". Start like specifically target, there's some pretty hot girl. We've had really hot women on Access Vegas who are like 5'2". Domo is like probably 5'4", 5'3". I mean, she's like pretty small. So a guy who's 5'9" is still taller than that girl. But the problem with it is I had to revise this because the problem with that is it's not being taller than your girl. It's being the tallest motherfucker in the room. That's what it is. So if your girlfriend is 5'4" and you're 5'9", guess what? You're 5 inches taller than she is. Awesome. But if all the guys you work with are 6'1" and you're the 5'9" guy there and you're hanging out with them, that you're standing in a police lineup, that's the comparison that women make. And I hate to pour a bucket of cold truth water on top of your head, but that's really how it works. But there's ways to get around it. Edward Scornfield, thanks for that $50, my friend. Rolo, I was talking to a colleague yesterday about how you don't go in Aubrey Marcus. You don't go in Aubrey Marcus and his poly cope. Okay. He even talks about listening to his girlfriend get banged in the house. Okay. How has this been ignored? I think he talked on Chris Williamson's podcast about it. Can somebody dig up Aubrey Marcus for me? I think he has a different name, though. I'm probably thinking is it Prometheus? Is that the guy? Because I've seen Prometheus on Chris Williamson, and I don't know if that's his real name. Aubrey Marcus. I would love to. Can somebody dig up like who Aubrey Marcus is? I'm thinking it might be this guy.
He's a YouTuber.
Is he a fat ginger dude?
Well, the one I'm getting is not a fat ginger dude. Yeah, I'll bring him up for you.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Sam Bottom. Yes, it was called Marry Him. That's okay. Oh, he's pretty yoked. 43 years old. Aubrey Marcus. Is he like a green medicine? Okay, so he's a health and fitness junkie. I don't know this guy. Actually, this is not who I thought it was. Founder of AMP Podcast, Fit for Service Fellowship. Oh, he's an ayahuasca guy. Okay, I got it. All right, got it. That's all I needed to know. Okay, he's ayahuasca guy. Yeah, I would be I would be very cautious of anybody who like turns their brain into silly putty and then tells you it's like because they want to talk to their spirit animals. But what got Derek, Dr. John Delaney, gives relationship advice. Chad, that gives relationship advice. He keeps popping up on my feed. Some of it's interesting. All right, well, I'll take your word for it. I'll look him up. John Deloney. The Rational Trucker, how do we figure out if a woman is a real Christian? Not a Christian. My wife was born and raised in the church, and she is as bad as the rest. All red pill women eventually regurgitate it. I know, pray it away 7 minutes a day. Thanks. Pray it away 7 minutes a day, and you two will have a great relationship. I don't care what religion a woman is, she's still a chick, right? The mechanics still work. It's funny to me, like when people start talking about hypergamy, like, oh, not my girls, not the girls in my country, Rolo. They're not hypergamous. No, bro, they're just as hypergamous as the chicks at fucking Omnia or Hakkasan or fucking Zook here. They're all nightclubs here. They're just as hypergamous as anyone else. How it's contextualized and how it's expressed or it's repressed is really what the conversation should be about. Hypergamy is on all the time. It's ambient. It's part of the operating package. How it's expressed and if it's expressed, well, then we can have a discussion and a debate about that. So what is it? How do you figure out if a woman is a real Christian? Well, what's a real Christian? That's what I'd like to know. I love it when people start using the term degenerate or real Christian or like container words. Like, I thank you, God, for Ryan Stone for giving me that retainer word understanding. Because I can tell you this right now, 90% of the girls that go on whatever podcast who have OnlyFans, like Nala is a Christian now, or she always has been, but she's the same one who said her dad would approve of her doing OnlyFans. She's the same. Like now, suddenly everybody wants to, put her under their arm. I mean, she's a hot piece of ass. I'm not gonna lie, but now suddenly that she's decided that she wants to be on Team Jesus. Everyone is sort of like falling all over themselves. It's just, I'll tell you what's funny. I don't know this for sure. Maybe somebody can figure this out, but it's the classic. It's the classic situation with the youth pastor and the ex-porn star. And what I mean by that is, like, it's usually strippers or it's porn stars, and they have some usually epiphany phase, right? They have some epiphany and they're like, I got to get out of the business, and which is becoming harder and harder for women to do because of OnlyFans and because of social media. But being as it is, I remember back in like the 90s and like the early 2000s, and I personally knew some of these guys who were like, they were youth pastors or youth ministers, or they were former youth ministers, and they were trying to do a seed church, and they met some chick who was like a former porn star, and they or was a stripper, and then she found Jesus, and then they got together, and now they're coming together to create some like former stripper ministry for Jesus kind of thing, right? It's like, well, we feel that God's put it on our heart to do this kind of ministry. And I'm like, wow, that is fucking convenient, man. Like, I think when people like give me shit about like the epiphany phase, they'll say, Rolo, don't you think women can have real conversions and they can really do some soul searching, and they can really be sincere about wanting to change their lives? I would hate to be as cynical as you. And I've always said the same fucking thing, which is, I don't necessarily think that they're being insincere. I think they're probably very sincere about this. I think they probably mean every fucking word that comes out of their mouth. If they were to take a polygraph test, are you sincere about wanting to, find God and leave porn and stop stripping and stop being a hoe? I bet they would pass a polygraph test. I think they're 100% sincere. The question's not about sincerity. It's about timing. It's about convenience, right? It's like, why now? Why wouldn't they want to do that when they were 22 and 23? But now that they're 29, 30, 31, now suddenly, that seems to be when they all decide that, you know what? I think I hear God calling to me. I think it's time to get out of the business. Well, I do too. It's not sincerity. It's timing. It's like, wow, how come it's contrived? And I'll tell you, guys, if you are a dyed in the wool, born again Christian, whatever you are, if you are already a virtuous, upstanding, youth pastor or whatever it is, and you want to get married, all you got to do is wait until wait for that one girl who's about 29, 30. Like your target demographic should be 29, 30, 31. And you need to find a reformed slut because they'll be the easiest ones for you to throw your God game on. Because I'll tell you right now, it happens with such it's so predictable right now that when I call it out, I look like a cynic. That's how predictable it fucking is, right? So let's get that one out of here. This one, I'm in the top 20% of men without money and in the top 5% with money. And it seems like all of the interactions I've had since my divorce is friends with benefits. I suspect you are right. This is all women want now. Okay. So I'm not going to subject you to this, but I actually did quite a bit of homework for today's topic. One of them was I think it was an interview. I don't know who this person is. It's a woman who's clearly like 50 some odd years old. She's well past menopause. Okay. And she doesn't look too bad for being like probably like 52 or so. But this interview she did with some sort of mealy mouth kind of, masculine apologist kind of dating expert who's going to give you the male perspective, right? The topic was friends with benefits after age 50. And I guess the woman was the interviewer. I don't know her name. I apologize. But the long and the short of it is that the question was, well, now that you're past a certain age, should you still entertain the idea of friends with benefits or a booty call, right? And then again, I still have to once again point out there's a distinction between casual sex and friends with benefits, okay? But in this case, they were talking about friends with benefits. And should women coming out of divorce, should men coming out of divorce initiate or try to at least or be open to anyways the idea of a booty call or a friends with benefits situation? I'm going to tell you right now, yes, you should, especially if you're coming out of a divorce. Now, this is just me being practical. This is not advice. This is not trying to push you in the right or wrong direction. It is just being pragmatic. Okay. And the reason I say it's pragmatic is because, first of all, most guys who are in that age demographic or that bracket right there, I'm going to use like say the 45 to 55 demo. You are probably not going to want to be getting with women who are of your same peer age demographic, simply because most of the women in your demographic are already in menopause and most likely have adult children. So when the red pill guys say that men should date younger, I'm not saying you should be 55 and should be nailing 19-year-old girls. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that how about 35? How about even like 42, right? How about that? And in those cases, depending, like you were saying here, I'm in the 20% of men without money. I'm in the top 5% of men with money. Okay, great. If that's the case, first of all, don't lead with your wallet. That I think too many guys here. By the way, when guys, this is some advice, guys. If you're coming out of a divorce, don't lead with your wallet. Too many dudes rely on, well, it doesn't matter what I look like. I'm a little pudgy. I know I'm 50 years old. I just got out of this sexless, because you're pudgy. I got out of this sexless marriage with this complete shrew, and now I'm ready to get myself back into the sexual marketplace. Awesome for you. But your initial most male deductive reasoning is, I have a lot of money and I have a lot of things going for me. I have a lot of value added benefits. Well, what you don't have is good looks. That's what you don't have. And that's primarily what women in that demographic are going to be looking for, at least initially. So leading with your wallet is going to be a dead end from the get-go. Even if you have a shit ton of money, it's not going to cover up for the deficit that you probably have in game because you've been married for the last, 10, let's just say average 7 to 10 years. Okay. It's not going to make up for the fact that you don't know how to talk to women in the first place. It's not going to make up for the fact that in the time you've been married, the game's fucking changed. And then second of all that money means fuck all to women perceptually. When women are on Instagram, when women are on social media, the social media that maybe didn't exist or was only just sort of coming into its own when you got married, that social media is what's feeding women's perceptions of themselves and what they think they can get. They're the guy who is the best that they can do. And if you're fat and you're showing off your rolls of chubby fatness on Instagram, I don't care how much fucking money you get. I don't care how much you think you know game, or you think you're going to like literally roll into the sexual marketplace. So don't think of it in terms of if you just got divorced, is money a factor? Yeah, it's one of three, but don't lead with your wallet, because too many guys think that, well, it doesn't matter that I don't know how to use Instagram. It doesn't matter that I don't, what's Hinge, what's Bumble, what's Tinder. If you don't have any congruency, if you have no game, if you don't have at least some sort of like reasonable physique in the first place, you're not going to get it. No one's going to be knocking on your door. So you can buy hookers, but if that's what you want to do, because that's the most direct, in fact, you might as well. In fact, you want some advice here, buy hookers. Because if that's your initial perspective, if that's your initial, your assumption is to lead with your wallet, you may as well. I mean, it's the shortest distance from A to B. I don't think you should do that, but deductively speaking, that's really the most pragmatic choice for you if you think that money is all that women care about. They don't. In fact, I would much rather you will not get a friends with benefits booty call situation with a woman based on your money. It will be based on, well, you got to be hot. You have to have some rapport. You have to have some familiarity. You got to be congruent with who you are. And you've got to be sexy and attractive enough for her to want to, like, for her to initiate it. Because usually friends with benefits works better. I would say almost like unilaterally. When you get into a friends with benefits situation with a woman, it is the woman's idea to do so. Men would love to get in that situation. Every time I have ever been in a friends with benefits situation, it was a mutual thing that the woman initiated and I reciprocated, and then we went from there, and then it became routine, and it became something. Hey, let's go Netflix and chill. So it became something. It became something of a regular thing as a result of just sort of letting it happen instead of going, hey, how about this? Let's negotiate. I would like to just have a friends with benefits situation with you. Was that mutually acceptable with you? Really? Let's sign this contract right here. That doesn't happen that way. You just sort of do it. You just kind of flow into it. And you know that, or she knows that you're seeing other people, and you don't care if she sees other people as well. She might even catch feelings for those people, but you sort of dissociated this emotional investment. That, by the way, is why this woman who was 50 years old saying that women should not get into those situations, because the older women get, the more they have to lose, the more their sexual value decays. So if a woman is in her 50s to begin with, honestly, a friends with benefits situation might be the only thing that she's going to be able to sort of use to get to have her needs met, and in this case her sexual needs, because men who would be better positioned than herself in life, who would be like what I was saying before, women have become the men that they want to marry, they want to be with. That 50-year-old woman is not going to find a guy who is the best she can do, because the guy who is the best she can do is already wants to fuck 27-year-old girls. He wants to fuck 30-year-old girls. A guy who's like, you take a woman who's 52 and you take a man who's 52, the dynamic is completely different at that age, because that woman's sexual agency and her sexual capital is pretty much dried up at that point. It's dried up, at least respectively, relatively speaking, to women who are younger than she is. So she might be a hot piece of ass at 50. There are some, masters class fitness competitors that can be very attractive. Don't get me wrong, like in their mid 40s ish. Like I think of, you can go look up Jamie Villamore. Jamie Villamore, I believe, is like 43. And if you saw her, you would go, there's no way this girl is like anywhere older than like, say, 32, 34. And she's got 2 kids, and she is absolutely stunningly attractive, right? But she's this side of menopause as well. And I hate to even say that, because I don't even want to dream of her like going into menopause, but she's very attractive. It's not about the attractiveness. It's about it's about the escalation of who is the best that she can do. So you take a woman who is, say, Jamie Villamore's caliber at 44, 45 years old. The guy who is older than her, who's 55 years old, is not going to be interested in a 45-year-old who could be better than she is. like monetarily, value added wise, physicality wise. If a guy is in as good a shape as she is at 55 years old, he's not looking for her. He's looking for a woman who's 35 years old with no baggage, who's not just this side of menopause. So you have to take those things into consideration. You know, the thing that gets me, Kyle, is whenever I get these guys who are talking about like how women can look great at 45, I'm like, you know what? There are very rare exceptions. There are some women that I've met through Access Vegas who are older women, middle-aged, that are fucking stunning. Like I would, definitely would, right? But the thing is like, and women hate this too when I bring this up. It's like, there's only one word you're missing in all that conversation, and that's menopause. And eventually, you know, when women get to be about 47, 48, they're perimenopausal at that point until they sort of get into it. And that doesn't mean it's a death sentence for women's sex life. It doesn't. But the thing is now, if you want to know, if I was to say there is a definitive age at which women hit the wall, it's whatever age they go into menopause. It'll come. Now, can it come earlier? Obviously it can. But I would say if under the most ideal, most perfect circumstance, if a woman is going to quote unquote hit the wall, it's probably going to be when she loses the ability to reproduce. And that she can still be stunning. She can still be sexual. She can still be just an animal in bed. Right. But the thing is a guy who could satisfy the question of, is he the best I can do? That is he the best I can do guy is not going to be into a menopausal woman. He wants to get with someone who is younger than that because she's not menopausal. Simple as that. Hey, Jabrizi, holy mother. He's like, Jabrizi's like, damn, that studio looks good. What'd y'all do? You make a great point. With women not trying to take direction from it. Jabrizi, you can come on down here anytime you want. We need to talk to you. With women not trying to take direction from any man, isn't the result of a friends with benefits. It almost seems as if men focus on quality relationships and women quantity relationships. I think it just depends on the guy. When I was Jabrizi, definitely read my most recent. If you haven't subscribe to my Substack. My most recent Substack article, I go into exactly what you're talking about here. I think that we're in a period or an era of sort of intersexual relations that is no longer defined by long-term relationships. I think it should. I'm not saying it should or shouldn't. I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. I'm just saying that we're in we're in an era right now where both men and women don't see any point in contractual long-term marriages anymore. I think we would like to think that women's prioritize quality over quantity, but you're saying this is the reverse, right? Which is men focus on quality and relationships and women focus on quantity. I would say that that's probably the case when women are younger. And then once they hit the epiphany phase, right around 29, 30, 31 years old, that's when women want to find Jesus and they want to do things the right way. And they have this epiphany that they've got to change their lives. And they're right, because it's right about 29 that women begin to understand that they're less competitive in the sexual marketplace at 29 than they were when they were 23. And even if that's not the case, even if the woman is hotter at 29 than she was at 20, like maybe she was a little overweight and she's like, you know what, I got to get in the gym and I got to really make dedication to my physique and change my life. Like, even if she's hotter at 29 than she was at 23, she's thinking differently at 29 because she knows because there's this sort of clock ticking. And even if that woman is like at peak, she's an 8, she's a 9 at 29 years old, the wall doesn't happen here. It happens here with women. And I am so fucking sick of having to re-explain this over and over and over again, because it's always like, well, you know, there's some really hot girls that are 33 years old. Yeah, they are. And they are already thinking, I better find a man for the long fucking term. A woman who is 33 could not compete, at least mentally speaking, could not compete with her 23-year-old self, even if she's hotter at 33 years old. because it's not just about the sexual agency. It's not just about how hot she is. It's not just about her availability. It's not about her being, more worldly wise, which is dubious at best. But it's about the fact that in the back of her head, she knows that there's a new crop of 23-year-old women out there who outclass her in the present sexual marketplace. So the wall is not about physique or sexual availability or sexuality. It's about mentality. And when I bring that up, that's when women start crying. Oh, you think he's right? You know how I'm right? I tell you why I'm right. Because the average age of first marriage for women in the United States is 30 fucking years old. That's why. It would be 23 if that were the case. Oh, I knew what I wanted at 23. Then the average age of first marriage for women in the United States would be 23 years old. And it's not. It's 30. For men, it's 31, 32, somewhere around there. It's actually gone up. Why do women put off marriage until 30 fucking years old? Because they want to run out of options. They want to know that they exhausted all their potential and like, well, okay, I couldn't find the right guy. Now I guess I better change my mind about myself. Now I guess I better get right with God. Now I guess I better do things the right way. No, you have to do them a different way, because what you could get at 23, you can no longer get at 33. And even if it's not true, it's true up here. It's perceptually true up here. It's like, I'm not getting any younger. The girl who is 10 years younger than, like, who's 23 versus the girl who's 33, she has an advantage simply because she's got more time on the fucking clock than the woman who's 33. That's where the wall starts. Not here. Women can be fucking hot as fuck at 45 years old. Absolutely can. It's not about physique. It's about mentality. And you ladies know I'm fucking right. This one's for Ned and his bionic leg. Yeah, he's going to need a bionic leg. I'll tell you what's funny, Sam, is I'll give you an update on Ned. Ned's bones are knitting. There is new bone growth, which I'm very, very happy about. Problem is like he's been in this hard cast for so long, it's starting to like rub him raw on certain parts of his leg. So now he's back in the spoon splint again. And I am scared shitless that he's going to slip or something's going to fuck up and we're going to go back to square one, or I might have to put him down if that's the case. And I don't want to do that. So now I am like I've never been more paranoid in my life about this, because that's when he had a spoon splint when he rebroke it the second time. He's done it 3 times now. So he's got it in there, and also he can heal up on the on that bone, but he also needs to be putting more weight on it, because when human beings too, you'll build bone if you put weight on it, because it's like that constant pressure, whatever the stimulation stimulates bone growth. So that's where he's at right now. And thank you for your concern. Kyle is the only one who I've ever allowed anyone to pick up Ned. He's the only one with the upper body strength.
I got special privilege.
He's fucking heavy now, man. He's like 74 pounds.
Lightweight.
Yep. Prophet of Stone started a new gym, and there's a hot woman who works there. You should come to Las Vegas, my friend. There are plenty of hot women who always eyes me and says something to me. Her boss bitterly says, goodbye to your boyfriend. Say goodbye to your boyfriend. As I walked by, what does that mean? That means she's probably hot for you, and that's an IOI, and you probably haven't initiated, and you probably should initiate. That's what it probably means. It means she knows something that you don't. When it comes to friends with benefits, both parties understand they are both sexually compatible. Yes, definitely. With each other, but with just being friends, you are just compatible with little or no sex. Yes. Glad you said that, FYI, Bob. Now we come to, I've said this in several essays. I've actually done a dedicated essay to friends with benefits. And I've compared friends with benefits to the friend zone. So hear me out. If you have a booty call, if you have a fuck buddy, whatever you want to call it, not casual sex, a fuck buddy. So we're talking about friends with benefits, people you have rapport with, actually are friends with. Right? Mike Sartain and I get into this all the time, where he's like, yeah, you can be friends with girls. Yeah, if you're fucking them. that's like he was. Now it's a little bit more complex than that, but I think it was funny because it's like after the show when we first got into this back and forth about like can men and women be friends, and he was saying, yeah, all these girls are my friends. Why would I want to not be their friend? I'm like, it's not saying you have to not be their friend. I'm just saying that you don't have friendships in the same quality or in the same frame as your same-sex friends, right? That he conceded, but he still thinks that you can be friends with women, right? Because they make good wingmen. Like if you have hot women around you, it's social proof. It's part of MOA, right? Which is social proof and pre-selection. Great, understood, absolutely, and I 100% agree. But if you're friend, it's like you can be friends with women, but you can be friends if you're fucking them. Which I think is funny because it's usually the other way around, where it's like no man can be friends with a woman that he doesn't want to fuck. I'm like, well, yeah, of course not. But I mean, it's like when Harry met Sally. You can be those guys still want to nail that girl, but they're playing friends because they know that they want to fuck them. And anyways, long story short, it was that's where the pushback comes when like people think that me and Mike are just like sort of just like gel on everything. And we have pushback quite a bit. But I have said this, and here's the clip for you. When it comes to booty calls, when it comes to friends with benefits, when it comes to, I don't know, fuck buddies. I like fuck buddies best. When it comes to friends with benefits, that situation with a man and a woman is analogous. It's similar to being friend zoned. Now, why does Rollo Tomasi say that? Well, because when you have a friends with benefits situation, you have all the sex with no emotional investment in that relationship. It's just about the fucking, right? It's like, well, I enjoy fucking him. I don't need him because I have all of my security needs, my provisioning needs, my parental investment needs. All of that's more or less, at least perceptually, taken care of for a woman. So what's left? Sex. Okay, so it's sex with no emotional investment in it. The opposite of that would be a guy who is friend zoned, where it's all emotional investment on the woman's part and the man's part, but there's zero sex that's going to happen, that has ever happened. So it's all of the reciprocation between men and women. The reciprocation being for a man's concern, interest, love, intimacy, value added, qualities, everything that goes into a relationship that is a sexless relationship. You're just friend zoned. And I want to tell guys this right now. If you are in a sexless marriage, you're friend zoned by your wife right now. You've just been friend zoned. You may as well, like guys will say this, I feel like she's my roommate. Well, yeah, because she is. And also because she doesn't want you to see her naked and she doesn't want to fuck you. And she doesn't want to do those things because you are her husband. You've also been friend zoned by your wife. So if you are in a sexless marriage, and by the way, the CDC classifies sexless marriages as less than 10 times per year, meaning that under once a month, right? If you're having it at all. I've known guys who don't even have sex whatsoever with their wives. They don't want to leave because it's cheaper to keep her, or they're doing it for the kids, right? Understand this. If you're doing it for the kids, you're in a sexless relationship, whatever else it is, if she doesn't want to fuck you, you have been effectively friend zoned in your marriage. Because it's all the emotional investment, it's all of the responsibilities of marriage, it's all of the friendship, the intimacy, the child rearing, the keeping the lights on and making money, all of the security, provisioning, protection, and parental investment with no sex reciprocated whatsoever. Whether it's obligated sex or it's like genuine hot monkey sex, genuine desire. None of that happens. So essentially it's the same. It's analogous to being friend zoned. The same thing is the inverse or the converse of being in a booty call. So it's no emotional investment. No, don't have to worry about mowing the lawn. Don't have to worry about leaving the fucking toilet seat up. Don't have to worry about your kids being at your sister's or whatever. All it is fucking and no emotional investment. It's the opposite of being friend zoned. So keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about booty calls, you're thinking about like friends with benefits. essentially what it is you're not putting yourself into this woman emotionally or investing any of your personal space or your mind space to that woman, but it's all simply based on sex. Whereas being friend zoned is all the emotional concern and whatever else, the investment without any reciprocal sex. That's the balance between those two. So keep that in mind. That was a good question though. I'd also like to see Aubrey Marcus relationship perspective get broken down. Would be good to see you get stuck into it. I will look him up. Gianni Colombo. I will look it up for you. Okay. I don't know who the guy is, but since you gave me $20, you seem pretty adamant about it, so I'll do it. Howie, what's up, man? What's up? Wait. I'm friends with benefits with this chick off Tinder, and oh wow, good. And to be honest, it's a mixed bag. You get flakes, no responses, and multiple that actually follow through. I've shortcut my way to success. Thoughts on the dating apps? Okay, now that's another thing. Is like when I was in my friends with benefit situations, you had to do everything analog. There was no digital option back then, so there was no Tinder. There was no texting. It wasn't as easily facilitated, which I think is kind of tragic because you could probably facilitate it a whole lot easier these days. I'm wondering if it's not, like I said, I think that the title of today's show is Women Want Friends with Benefits and Not Marriage. I think men probably want something a little bit more these days, but I think women, simply because they can't find a guy who's fucking good enough, who they don't feel like they're settling for, it's an ideal situation for them because they're not settling on a guy, but they're still getting the sex that they wanted from the guy that they would otherwise have to settle for because he's just not quality. He's not high quality enough for him. I think you probably are thinking that it's a mixed bag because you probably have a lot of irons in the fire. And you probably have more. I would argue this. I don't know you personally, Howie, but I would guess the average guy today who is working a friends with benefits situation is like working multiple angles. And I will say this is when I had friends with benefits, it was one at a time. So I didn't have consecutive fuck buddies. I had a fuck buddy, and then I had other girls who I was working, right? She was like the two that were like the mains. They were the only fuck buddies I had at the time, but I was seeing other women as well, thinking that I could probably get a relationship with other women, just not with the one who was my fuck buddy, right? But the fuck buddy was always there. And I'm going to tell you the advantage of a fuck buddy when you're in that situation is you're probably going to be more experimentative. You're going to take chances that you wouldn't necessarily take if you didn't have the fuck buddy. What I mean is if you know you have a sure thing, if you know you have a fuck buddy who's going to want to suck your dick and fuck you as soon as you make a phone call because she just is into it, and maybe it's a scheduling thing, but definitely is down to fuck all the time. It's going to give you sort of a little bit more leeway, I think, mentally to take chances with women who, if that was your only sexual option, you probably wouldn't take. So guys being more bold, being more brash, like taking chances in I hate to say courtship, but in the game, the sarging side of it. I think guys who have the sure thing, if you've got like two girls who are your sure thing and you're trying to work one or another one who aren't necessarily sure, but you really want to fuck them, or maybe there's something about them that you want to sort of, put more time and energy into, you're going to be more attractive as a result of sort of unspoken, like unconscious behaviors that you're going to manifest because in the back of your head, hey, if it doesn't work out with this chick, I've got two other girls who want to fuck me tonight, right? And you don't have to be a prick about it, and you don't have to give ultimatums, but I think that most guys, if they have two or three girls that are on the back burner and they're working another girl, they're going to take more chances with that girl. And the fact that they're going to take more chances with that girl means that they're probably going to do better because the guy has a don't give a fuck attitude. And not that it's like he shouldn't give a fuck. It's that it's this risk taking, or this willingness to be a little bit more upfront, because if it goes to shit, the guy knows he's got 2 other girls on the back burner who are proven commodities at that point. That's also the basis, I want to say, to Iron Rule of Tomasi number 3, which is if a woman makes you wait for sex, the sex is never worth the wait. Again, that's not about the sex. It's about the desire. It's about the quality of the desire, not the actual fucking, okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is when I talk about plate spinning. I heard, what was it? I really want, at some point I will probably get into this with Andrew Wilson at some point. But I heard Myron and Andrew Wilson talking about the 50 girl limit, or whatever it is, the quota that you're supposed to have with, Mike Myron always says, and people like fixate on numbers, like 50, I gotta have 50. It's not about that. It's meant to teach. It's really a metaphor and an analogy to teach a greater lesson. And that lesson is exactly what I just said. If you've got 2 or 3 other girls who are proven commodities that will fuck you, you're going to display confidence. You're going to display behaviors that if you didn't have those girls, they wouldn't even be an afterthought. You wouldn't dream of fucking up the perfect situation with this one girl who, had you had more girls in the back burner, you probably would have gotten, because the behaviors that you manifest, because you're coming at it from a position of abundance rather than a position of scarcity. Guys don't understand. Guys who don't fuck will never understand this, because that abundance changes your mind about yourself. It changes your mind. Like people say, how do I get confidence? Confidence comes from options. Say that again. Confidence is derived from having options. You don't go to your boss and say, hey, boss, if you don't give me a fucking raise, give me another $20,000 raise, I'm fucking out of here. You don't do that, because they'll say, okay, bye, see, fuck off, right? But if you go to your boss and say, hey, boss, I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. I'm going to leave because Joe down the street has promised to give me an extra $20,000 a year in my salary. Seems like a better fit for me. So I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice. That's when the boss says, oh, wait, hold on. What if we gave you 20? Can we keep you if we give you an extra 10 or 20 grand or 25 grand? That's when you have options. So you have a backup plan. It's like monkey branching, only it's monkey branching for your work, for your employment, right? You're in a much better position to negotiate if you've already got an offer from somebody else. Well, the same applies to spinning plates. If you have 2 or 3 other girls who are proven commodities, who that they want to fuck you, maybe they're friends with benefits, maybe they're not, and you're going to be the guy who has the backup plan. You're the guy who has job offers from other people, and you're telling your boss, I'm going to give you 2 weeks notice. Giving the 2 weeks notice, that's the behavior that you would never engage in had you not had the options to do so. Ergo, confidence is derived from having options. It's not some magical well of good feelings and positive juju you send out into the fucking universe. No, it's having options. It's knowing that it's the knowledge that you can generate options because you've generated those options in the past, and you're confident in your ability to do that. So if you've had women in the past, or you've had a really good job in the past, you will probably be in a different frame of mind when it comes to other opportunities. This is another reason why I say guys should not get into any form of monogamy until they get to, you don't even consider monogamy until after 30. Why? Because your best options are going to be from the time you're 18 till you're about 29 years old. That's when you have the ability to maneuver. That's when you can say, hey, I want to go to this college. Hey, I want to take that job opportunity. Hey, I want to do these things. The world is my fucking oyster. But if you are necessitous, if you have no abundance, if you have no fucking options, you have no fucking confidence, period. End of story. Or even if you can be as confident as fuck, but you're never going to be as confident, and you're never going to display those confidence behaviors, as well as when you have shit waiting in the backfield, stuff that's waiting in the bullpen. So that's really the point of plate theory, of dating non-exclusively. You have a roster of 3 girls and you're working 2 more, not because you're manipulative, not because you're a fucking prick, but because those options give you confidence. And the woman who says, I loved him because he was hot and funny and sexy, but he was so confident. Yeah, confident because He displayed confidence behaviors because he was fucking 2 other chicks when he met you, and he took chances with you, and you thought it was sexy because he was upfront and he was in your face and he was a stand-up guy. Why? Because he already had two chicks he was fucking at the same time, right? And women don't like to hear that, but that's where it comes from. And ladies, it works just as well for women as well. Women are that's why I say the sex is never worth the wait if a woman makes you wait for sex. Because women break rules for alphas and they make rules for betas. If she's making the rule of, I'm going to make you wait for sex, I want things to be right, I need to feel comfortable with you, it's not because she wants to feel comfortable with you. It's because she wants to see if those other options that you don't know about are going to pan out and or pan out. And she still wants to see, she hasn't really figured out if you're the real deal yet. When women say, oh, I need to be comfortable with you. No, what she's really saying is, I need to know that you're really who the fuck you say you are. That's being comfortable, right? I want to know that you're not the Tinder swindler. I need to know that you're really the alpha that you're presenting yourself to be. Oh, and in the meantime, I'm still going to fuck these guys in my backfield because that's where her confidence and her options come from. Beautiful women, very, very fucking hot women are almost always the most confident women. Almost always. Like there's some schizo beautiful women, don't get me wrong. But almost always women are confident. Why? Because they know they're fucking hot. And they know if they don't have options, and they already probably have a million different, male orbiters, beta orbiters. Even if they don't have those options, they know they can generate them. They know that they get this constant feedback of guys and girls who are like, you look so hot, so cute. Oh yeah, I love fucking pumpkin spice lattes. Oh, what can't we have them all year long? Like that kind of like constant feedback and constant like reward of attention, that builds confidence because it leads women to believe that they have options that they may or may not have, but it's the perception and the belief that they actually do have those. There's your very long $20 answer, Howie. Women know how to convince themselves of anything to get away with whatever their heart desires. Feels good in the moment. Women 101. Young women tend to be sensualists. And I don't mean hedonists. I don't mean it's sensations. I know I'm a sensualist too. I like sensations. I like experiences. I like to be able to go drive fast cars, right? It doesn't have to be sexual. I would love to get back into surfing. I like playing loud, heavy, hard music on stage, right? I love doing that stuff. It's the sensation. It's the experience of it. Emilio Fanicio. Hey. I didn't believe Nala's testimony because she was still wearing cumbrellas. I know what. Okay, let's just move on. Rolo, what's a cumbrella? Stop. Just don't turn around. The car goes this way. Wait, give me this camera real quick. No, not that one. The other one. You need to fuck off. Should we reject women in their epiphany phase? I don't think that it's necessarily the epiphany phase is not necessarily a red flag. As a matter of fact, it can be a very big green flag if you know how to leverage it. No, not necessarily. I just think it's something you need to be aware of. Some guys will, maybe. If I was let's see if I can contextualize this. If I was a older man, and by older, I mean like 40s, not my old ass. And I was looking for something that's a little bit more long-term, I probably wouldn't look for a woman in her epiphany phase. The reason for that is I think it's a very kind of chaotic phase for women. And remember that women can have multiple epiphany phases. Women will tend to have an epiphany phase after a divorce as well. They'll go into cougar mode, and then it's like it's like an hyper accelerated hoe phase to epiphany phase. So it's like the stereotypical cougar, right? She gets out of a relationship at 40 years old. She wants to fuck college guys till she's 42. And then she goes into the epiphany phase, and she really wants to get right with God and find a good, where's my man from heaven? Oh Lord, where's my preordained husband that you promised to me? And then she's 43. And you know where it goes from there. So it's like the epiphany phase usually starts when a woman is like again, you want to see it here? I'll give it to you. Where'd it go? This is the timeline. So there's the party phase from 20 to 18 to 29. Then there's the epiphany phase, which really kind of starts around 27, 28. And then there's the transition. Transition is usually when women get married. Look, when's the most common age for women to get married? 30. So that epiphany is, oh my gosh, I got to get things right. The lights are coming on at the club and I better find a guy who's good enough. He doesn't necessarily have to be like perfect like I wanted in my 18 to 27-year-old phase, but can he still be hot? I still want a hot guy, right? And then you go into the security phase. Security phase is usually, if you look at age of first birth for women, now it's anywhere between like say 28 and 30, I believe. But then there's there's a need for security that is going to last all throughout that child's like toddler years. And again, these phases can be pushed up or pushed back depending on the circumstances of the woman. This is just like on average. Okay. And then I notice I put like 36 and 37 ish right there, 35, 36 or 7. That's men's peak sexual market value phase. And so right after the security phase, if you look at that, that's about 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 years, which is usually if a woman gets divorced, it's usually between year 5 and year 9. That's why 7-year itch. That's why the average is 7 for the duration of if a marriage is going to end in divorce, it usually ends right around the 7 to 8 year mark. Okay. So now you're in the development phase. That development phase is, I better decide whether or not I'm with a guy who I'm settling for. So 37, 38, 39. I got to find a guy. If this guy ain't it that I married and had babies with, if this guy ain't it, now's the time to shit or get off the pot, because by the time I get to be 40, 42, I'm certainly not going to be able to compete with women who are 22, 23, 25, whatever. Okay. That's why I call that the development phase, because that's actually probably one of the most critical phases in a woman's like phases of maturity of her life. Right. Because that's when she decides whether or not this guy's the best she can do, or she could do better. And that's when she's going to get a personal trainer and start fucking him, or she's going to start she's going to start her exit during the development phase, because she wants to be hot and sexy enough before her 39th birthday. There you go. Let's see. The fuck is this? Is there a correlation between temple sex and friends with benefits? What the fuck is temple sex? You mean like going to the temples at Delphi so you can like go worship at the altar of pussy back in the Roman times or whatever it was? Aphrodite. It's the temple of Aphrodite. Yeah. Sure. What is temple sex? I don't know what somebody tell me what temple sex is. And please tell me it's not like some Jewish thing, for fuck's sake. God. I wish I was living in the 1950s being blue pilled. Yeah. Well, guess what? Tradcons don't want the red pill. They want a fucking time machine. Be wary of wanting to go back in time, my friend. You don't get to go back. You only get to keep going forward. Les Claypool or Cliff Burton? Technical wise, I would say Les Claypool, but feeling wise, definitely I'll go with Cliff Burton. Not to take anything away from Les, though. Thoughts on Warhammer Custodes reaction? Thank you. Somebody asked me. Hot damn, I get to answer this question. Seems like the lore could allow it, but GW is being quite disingenuous. Well, of course they are. Makes me nervous with the Amazon series. Yeah, me too. I'm hoping my man Henry Cavill. How do you pronounce his name?
I'm pretty sure it's Henry Cavill.
Somebody gave me so much shit when I was on what was it, Pop Culture Crusade or whatever it was. I kept saying Henry Cavill because it sounds right. It rolls off the tongue differently, but I guess it's Henry Cavill. I hope he can pull it out. See, the problem with, like, I think probably Henry Cavill went into the project thinking like, because he's a fanboy, man. He's like super into fucking Warhammer, and he don't give two fucks about like saying that he does because he's hot. He's fucking Henry Cavill. No homo. He's hot, right? But to have him be able to go up and like start talking about 40K, it's like, oh my God, thank my savior, right? But I think he is probably going into the project with a lot of good intents, and he's definitely, really genuine about going and doing it. But then you got to remember, Amazon did do Rings of Power. So, which people are going to throw tomatoes at me, but I didn't hate Rings of Power as much as everybody said I should hate it. It was okay. It wasn't great, but it was okay, I guess. I don't know. I got one other thing to say, but thoughts on the Custodes. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's an army in Warhammer 40,000 universe, sci-fi universe. The Custodes are actually the personal bodyguards of the Emperor. The problem with 40K is they can retcon anything they want to. So you can say, well, it's not canon if there's female space marines. And really, that's where this is going. And the bigger problem is not whether or not female Custodes belong in 40K universe or not. They don't. They really don't. The thing about 40K right up until probably the last 10 years ish is that it's the grim darkness of the far future where there is only war. It is a very nihilistic, despondent future. It's not fucking Star Trek Enterprise. It's not Star Trek. It's not this bright, great future that's awaiting for us. It's superstition. It's zealous cult-like religion. It is very dystopian. And so what I think is interesting is when they started putting out like 40K action figures, right? Or they started putting out like children's versions of like, Revenge of the Necron, that kind of like shit like that. I'm like, okay, they jumped the shark. And I think could you retcon it so that there would be like female Custodes? Yeah, you could. Do you want to? There's a con here that maybe this is the best way to put it. There's a concept in the game that's called rules as written versus rules as intended. Rules as intended, there ain't no fucking female space marines and there ain't no fucking female Custodes. And quite honestly, right up until like they started writing some of the Horus Heresy books, there was no female guardsman either. So think about that for a little bit. It was very masculine centric. It was very patriarchal because it's the fucking emperor of mankind. It's the master of mankind. He's the God emperor of the universe. Okay. They ruthlessly ripped off Dune. They ruthlessly ripped off all kinds of other IPs to turn it into their own. The problem I have is that the rules as intended is it should be a dystopian, grim darkness of the far future, right? That's what it should be. And in the grim darkness of the far future, there are only men. There are only males. There's even a part in that is technically canon about the Space Marines saying that female bodies could not stand the rigors of the genetic enhancements of the Space Marines, right? That there would be like female Custodes is just pandering to an audience. They're writing for the audience rather than writing for the art. It's rules as written versus rules as intended. And I think it's a tragedy. Yes, it's wokesies getting into it. And I think the thing that pisses me off the most about it is not only is it pandering, it is pandering in like that is unnecessary. Like, why would you even bother doing this? It's always been this way. And the strengths of the IP have been that because it's always been a dark future. It's not been a bright, happy, fun, multicultural Star Trek Enterprise. God damn it. I've been good friends with Vox Day for quite some time. I haven't talked to him in quite a while, but Vox Day once said that Star Trek is the most unrealistic version of a human future. And I asked him, so why is that? He goes, because everyone in Star Trek, if it was like, I don't know when it's supposed to take place, 2,600, 33,000. I don't know when it's supposed to, but if you fast forward humanity up to like, say, year 2,500, somewhere around there, there would be no Scotsman, there would be no black women, there would be no Sulu, there would be no Captain Kirk for that matter, because everybody, if they were all interbreeding, they would all be this nice color of mocha, they would not have accents, they would not be speaking in Mandarin or Swahili or English for that matter either. They would not be speaking in those languages, because if as the bright future of Star Trek would like to predict was this melting pot of multiculturalism, it would preclude the fact that those cultures would have died off for a homogenous like monoculture at that time. And I had to sit and think about that. I go, yeah, you're probably right. And that's what I fear that they're trying to do with 40K at this point. So there's your very long drawn out answer. YOLO. Hi, I have noticed that many women with anxiety self-harm and cut themselves with razor blade. Please explain why they do this and how we can help them. Why do you want to? Here's how you help them. Walk away. Remove yourself from their situation. Self-harming women is almost unilaterally just a cry for help and a cry for attention is what it is. So are they actually going to, if you see women who have like multiple cuts on them, it's not because they're trying to commit suicide. They want you to notice the cuts. That's why. The biggest fallacy that is being put out is equating love with sex and not sex with genuine desire. You heard the terms making love, which most blue pill guys adopted with emotionalism. Yep. Let's see. Hey, Rolo, ART. Should we be worried if the major city we are in has a slightly larger male to female population, ages 18 to 30? How much percentage gap is an issue? There was a time I probably would have said that it would be an issue, but now because we live in a global sexual marketplace, I don't think it is as much an issue as it used to be before. Why do I say that? Well, because if there's a larger male to female population, it's not the population density that you need to be concerning yourself with. It's the quality of the pool of eligible men to eligible women in that demographic, which I guess you said 18 to 30. So in my demographic, let's just say I'm 56 years old. So let's just say 10 years, 46 to 56 years. You could go a little higher than that. I'm in probably the top 5% for percentile of guys who are earners and guys who are in the shape that I'm in right now. So if you look at money, muscles, and game, of those three, I'm most definitely in the top, at least I'll be modest, in the top 5% of guys. There are guys of my age that make a lot more money than I do. Yes. Are they in the same shape as I am? Maybe fewer. With the same game and the same understanding of intersexual dynamics, even fewer. So it's not so much about population density as it is the quality of that particular population. So guy is like, what is it, 75% of the US population is overweight. If you are within a reasonable good weight, you're already put yourself ahead of 75% of wherever you happen to be. I don't care if it's a major city or it's not a major city. So there's that. And let's see. Oh, and then of course there's obesity rates. There's a lot of qualifiers that you need to consider when you're looking at things, at least from like a demographics point of view. Not your everyday Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Your math ain't mathin'. Oh, great. Why? You have anything else to say? Pussy in bio? Pussy in bio. Is the quality Warhammer? This is the quality Warhammer content I came for. Magnus did nothing wrong, my friends. Nothing wrong whatsoever. He is the victim in all of this. He was an unfortunate victim. All he wanted was better knowledge. The only evil is ignorance, and the only good is knowledge. Thank you, Magnus. You may call me Magnus now. Rolo, off topic. Is James Sexton representing you know who in Australia against you know who in Canada? No, but I would very much love if they did. I don't know if that's kind of in his wheelhouse, because he's like the difficult. I know you're talking about Aaron McCready and you're talking about Lauren Southern. Okay, just say their names. It's fine. Like, this is my show. I'll say what the fuck I want to. it's the international part that I think he would have to probably like defer to somebody else, because I don't know that he does that. So it's like he's a U.S. family attorney in Manhattan, and you're talking about two parties. One's in Canada and one's in, even though Aaron is a U.S. citizen, he's in Australia and she's in Canada. I would love for that to happen, man. I would love to see James Sexton go up against Lauren's divorce attorney. God, that would be glorious. And what would happen? How great would it be if like he just like fucking knocked her, like ran her to ground and that? Oh gosh, don't. All right, let's keep going. I have a couple of other things I wanted to get. I actually had some things to do. Yes. But he was prideful because it was justified pride. Okay, so I want to point out a couple of other things here when it comes to friends with benefits. Most guys, I'm speaking a foreign language to them. Most guys don't get into these situations. At least 80% of guys don't get into these situations. I would, it would be stupid for me to do this, but I would love to do a poll to see how many guys have actually been like in a friends with benefits relationship. And the reason it would be stupid is because somebody would, if I did it on Twitter or whatever, it would be inaccurate, but it would also be like, I'd also get these comments about only degenerate coomers are concerned with friends with benefits. Well, you're a fornicator? Are you telling guys to fornicate? Like no, dude, I'm just asking if people like, what's the actual frequency of friends with benefits situations? I remember when I first heard that, and I think it was on like Tom Likas or something like this. So this is like it's coming up internet. There was no social media at the time, but they were talking about like booty calls or friends with benefits or fuck buddies. I used to call them like booty calls. We used to call them booty calls, but like, friends with benefits, whatever you want to call it. I didn't even hear that terminology till probably like the late 90s, early 2000s. Excuse me. But I'm wondering like what, especially for Generation Z, I'm wondering how many guys in Generation Z actually have friends with benefits. Like they get into like this sort of like comfortable fucking situation. Because it was kind of strange for me. I didn't even know something like that existed until I was in it. And I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it, but I think there's this idea that that sex has to have some like cosmic meaningfulness. If you listen to, that's why I put the Jordan Peterson. Let me put this up real quick. That's why I put this in.
When I was in college, I broke up with 3 girls, I think, in the space of 6 months, something like that. They were
okay. Did you catch that? I broke up with 3 girls in the space of 6 months. So, am I to believe, Dr. Peterson, that you were spinning 3 plates inside of 6 months? Because that seems like you were a fucking playa back then. If that's the case, were you fucking these girls, or was it just maybe not? I would love to get a little bit more detail on this, because I think a lot of this is just sort of grandstanding on his part, like trying to be relevant and hip. But maybe the math doesn't. Maybe you're right, Ashley. The math isn't mathin'. It's not mathin' for Peterson.
Relatively short-term relationships, but they all ended the same way, more or less. And I don't even remember the details, but I thought, that's.
You don't even remember the details. That's fucking convenient. You do remember that you had 3 of them inside of 6 months, but you don't remember the details. Do you remember the girls' names? Because I remember all my, more or less.
Them. That's me. And, it took me a while to sort out what it was. Part of it was that I had a tendency to, this is very common. In fact, I'm sure it's overwhelmingly the norm.
I hate to say it, but he does the same thing I do, which is like you're in a thought, and then you come up with another thought, and it competes with that thought, and so you go with the other one, and people like lose track of the conversation. Like, where's he going with this?
Maybe women do this too. God only knows what women do. But I had a tendency to put any woman that I was attracted to on a pedestal, and that was hard on her.
So all 3 of these women that you had to break up with in the space of 6 months, you put on a pedestal. So was it that you broke up with them, or they broke up with you inside of that 6 months because you put them on a pedestal?
Her, and also, put me in a demeaned position immediately, which was also not attractive, by the way.
Well, yeah, we got that. That's definitely oops, there we go. That's definitely bad news, right? I thought this was interesting because I never, like, somebody sent me this clip on Instagram and I was like, wow, that's a side of Peterson I haven't seen. Again, I don't know if he's showboating, but like everything I've ever seen from him has been all about Tammy and just how she was like the most perfect chick he met at 7 years old and he was going to marry her at 7 years old. And yet his MO, probably from the time he was like 7, was that he wanted to, marry this chick. But would it be safe to assume that he put Tammy on a pedestal too and just kept her there for the better part of her lifetime until she got to the point where it's like, okay, I guess he'll do. Let's do a brief, like, very unscientific poll here. Put a 1 in the chat or 2 if you think that Jordan Peterson was the best that Tammy could do, or she felt that he was the best that she could do at the time, like right before they got married. Because one of the reasons I think that the friends with benefits situation has sort of changed over the years, particularly in recent times, is because it seems like it's more tenable now than it was before. Because everything I've seen, like that woman who was in her 50s and she was talking about whether or not, women should get into friends with benefits situations. The main reason she said no is because, women will start to develop feelings. And even Jordan Peterson has been on record as saying, like, oh, there's no such thing as casual sex because you'll develop your cosmic energies will come together in confluences and shit like that, or it'll be like you can't have sex without there being some sort of emotion. And I heartily disagree. I can show you example after example after example of how this is simply not true. Because if you jerk off to porn, and 68% of Christian men admit to having a porn addiction, so if you jerk off to porn, is that not, at least in some way, compartmentalizing sex and emotion? It's not like you're like becoming emotionally involved with maybe with your OnlyFans girl, but it's not. But if you're stroking off the fucking Pornhub, guys have no problem separating the sex act, I should say, from an emotional investment. Women probably have a much more, I'm not saying women can't do it. There are plenty that do, right? But I think it's probably a little bit more difficult because of the investment cost of reproduction for women. So there has to be the emotional association with sex is also a survival adaptation. Their psychology when it comes to that, it's a survival adaptation. Because again, even if a woman made a right choice in our ancestral past, if she made the right choice of man, she could still die from that. If she made the wrong choice and the guy just ejaculates and evacuates, then it's still like she's left with a kid and she is at a survival disadvantage because she made a bad decision. That's why women get so hyperactive when it comes to like trying to figure out if a guy is for real or not, because there's a primal instinctual level need to know that, because if he's not who he says he is, then essentially she's being raped. And then second of all, she could die from reproducing with a guy who's not going to stick around. So if that's the case, there has to be some sort of modern reason, modern rationale, modern methodology in which women will say, you know what, I'm going to put that off. I'm going to condition myself so that I don't have such an emotional attachment to these guys. And maybe I need to do that now because I'm the only one I can trust for my own personal security. Provisioning, protection, and parental investment, or long-term security. Women are dependent on themselves for long-term security right now. And if they can manage that and consolidate on that, what's left? Friends with benefits, fucking. They still want to fuck. Women definitely still want to have sex. So I'm not saying women don't have a more higher proclivity, let's say, to have an emotional investment in the sex that they're having. Men don't have that proclivity. We can get it. We can invest ourselves in it. We can certainly put them on pedestals, as Peterson was saying. But men innately see casual sex as a fucking net benefit because it's in our evolutionary reproductive best interests to ejaculate and evacuate. That's why porn is such a big deal. How do I get unaddicted to porn, Rolo? Just stop jerking off. That's how you turn off the porn. It's easier to not do something than it is to do something. Like, turn it off. Stop fucking stop playing with yourself and go fucking do something productive. Replace one bad habit with a better habit. I'm addicted to the dopamine. Okay, well then go and find some other pro-social, beneficial means of triggering that dopamine that doesn't involve snapping your radish. Okay? It's not that hard. Oh, you don't know what it's like, bro. You're old. I'm old enough to fucking know what I'm talking about. But the idea that sex has to be coupled with emotion, that's guys who don't fuck. That's what they say. Those are the words of the guys who don't fuck. Those are guys who are in sexual deficit. Or women who have a vested interest in locking a guy down for long-term security. So when I hear like Peterson, or I hear like some of these, there's too many to fucking list. So then guys talking about, you need to have you Rolo, you just talk about meaningless sex. Let me explain something to you. I have meant to fuck every girl I ever fucked. Okay. I meant 100%. My heart was in it, every single one. Okay. Yes. That's the extent of meaningful sex. Okay. Is it great to have sex with someone you love? Yes, absolutely it is. Is it great to have hot monkey sex with some chick you're just really fucking hot for because everybody wants some? Yeah, it's like fucking pizza, man. It's good when it's warm and it's good when it's cold, and just having that attitude. There's a difference in attitude, I know, from guys who fuck and guys who don't fuck. And again, the guys who are accustomed to the attentions of a lot of young women understand, I think, have a better understanding of female nature. Andrew Wilson. It's that experience side. It's understanding. Even if you like, here's the thing. When Andrew Wilson was talking, and this is no flame. I like Andrew. I consider him a friend. This is not a flame. But when I'm watching him and I'm watching Myron sort of have this back and forth about the 50 girls thing, the one thing I was just like screaming at the screen, I'm like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to figure this out. It's if you have abundance, literally have the options, you're going to be more confident. It's not fucking rocket science. And so if you have, and even just because you have abundance of women doesn't mean you're fucking every single one of those women. So when it says, oh, well, do these random hoes, like they all have to be random, like, slovenly trolls, right? They're some of the women that I've had sex with in my 40 some odd, notch count. Some of them were not that great. A lot of them were fucking awesome, man. And just because they had sex with me and then had sex with other people after we broke up or whatever, that doesn't make her a fucking slut. It just makes her someone who enjoys sex. It just makes her, like, guys who fuck understand shit like this. Guys who don't think that any girl that spreads her legs on the first date or the third date or the 9th date is a slut. And that's simply not true. And you would know that if you were having sex with many women, or you just enjoy the attention of many women. You don't necessarily have to be fucking women left and right, anything on 2 fucking legs, to understand the value added prospect of having women come around. High value men are orbited by gorgeous women. Whether they're sluts or they're high quality women is irrelevant to the conversation. They are markers of a high value guy. They're guys that other men want to be and other women want to fuck. Does that mean he's fucking all of those other women? No, but there are a lot of women that want to fuck him. And so therefore, yes, they do have intrinsic value, if for nothing else than being a cue and a marker of a high value guy. Very, very simple. Okay? But guys who don't fuck don't understand shit like that. The other part with friends with benefits is it's almost always a validational sex situation, because if it wasn't, if it was the other way around, like, what do I mean by that? Transactional sex versus validational sex. Validational sex is the sex that women want to have. When I was in my rock star 20s, I was having nothing but fucking validational sex with women. Trust me on that, because I had no money. It wasn't the fucking big fat hairy bank account that I had. I didn't have jack shit. And I still got laid like fucking tile back then. So it wasn't about the money. It was, I was an experience that these women wanted to have at that fucking time. Great. Oh, Rolo sounds like he's glossing himself. You know why I sound like I'm glossing myself? Because today, guys wouldn't even think about doing that. Guys wouldn't even like, oh, it's got to be meaningful. He's having meaningless sex. It's no such thing as meaningless sex. Sex is sex is sex is sex. Okay? How you apply you can apply meaning to it subjectively, but sex is fucking sex. There's two. There's the proximate outcome for sex, and there's the ultimate outcome for sex. When I met Mrs. Tomasi, I didn't look at her and go,
I'm going to vet her for marriage. I wonder if she'd be a really great mother for my future children. What a great idea. I think I'll go and give her the, 436 bullet point checklist, battery of questions. So see if she's a good future Mrs. Tomasi. I know. You know what I did? I just looked at her. I saw her tits. I saw her ass. I go, I want to tap that. That's the proximate outcome. Yeah, I'm in there. Let's go, man. That looks like a fun fucking time. The ultimate outcome is we got married. We both were very much compatible. We both, were, of the same religion. We were both, everything worked out for us. Is there a little bit of luck involved in that? Absolutely. Is there a little bit of skill? I think the skill part comes from my being red pill and having a good, successful marriage for almost 28 years now. So when people say, oh, you can't find a quality woman at a bar, they're all skanks and hoes. No, I met Miss Tomasi, my 28, soon to be 20. Well, I've been with her over 28 years. My wife at one of those places. You're supposed to meet your wife at Barnes and Noble and Bible study. Dude, she can't be friends with benefit. The other thing is, I was reading some of these other studies on friends with benefits. Just because you're friends with benefits doesn't mean that it doesn't lead into something else. Sometimes it does. Sometimes there's situations and relationships and marriages that result as a friends with benefits situation. I think that might have been in the past, though. I think right now, friends with benefits, it's a solution to the problem that is women don't need men, but they want men. And what do they want? They want friends with benefits. They want someone they're comfortable with, that they know is safe, that they know they can fuck, that they enjoy every single time. But that's the end of the reciprocation. That's the end of their investment. And again, it really boils down to women being able to separate their emotional investment from the sex act itself. And that might sound very degenerate. That might sound like very dystopian. And you probably would be right about that. I will agree. But it is what it is. And that's where we're at right now with respect to marriages and with respect to relationships. That's why I said women want friends with better benefits, not marriages. Why am I saying that? Because when I was writing the outline for my most recent Substack, I got to thinking about this, and we tend to overemphasize men not wanting to get married, right? Oh, men think they're going to lose half of their stuff. That's why they don't want to get married. It's these red pill guys. They're the reason for the fertility rate being under replacement level that actually started in 1975. It must be those red pill guys that are dissuading men from getting married. Well, who's doing then? Why is it that women don't want to get married? Because there has to be two people. It's like it's this idea that there's just this fucking crowd of women in like fucking Wembley Stadium waiting in wedding dresses with a fucking bouquet to get married. But all these guys are like, no, we're not gonna. This is big army of guys that we're not gonna fucking get married. Those red pill guys told us not to. What fucking planet are you on? That doesn't fucking happen. And the reason why it doesn't happen is because women don't want to get married any more than guys want to get married. That's why the marriage rate is at 6.1 per 1,000 right now and declining even more than that. So when people tell me, oh, well, it must be those rebel guys that are like ruining the sexual marketplace, get the fuck out of here. It's been ruined for really since the sexual revolution got started, before anybody knew what a fucking red pill was, before the movies even came out. But yet we're supposed to believe that women are just like waiting for guys. And that's why I was saying that friends with benefits situations are actually probably more preferable than a modern marriage would be today, because of the "is he the best I can do" doubt that women have. So if that's the case, why is it that women don't want to get married? Ladies, please chime in. I'd be happy to take your super chats right now about this. Why is it that women don't want to get married? I already know. They don't want to get married because no guy is fucking good enough. They feel like they would be settling. Average women don't want to get with average men. In fact, they don't want to get with them. They think that they deserve above average men. And that's why I made the point in my recent essay, is that only elite men are eligible bachelors. Only guys who are above average, who are elite men, they're the only ones who could possibly maybe qualify by push past the threshold of "is he the best I can do?" And I broke it down this way, as you know, and I'll explain once again, the 80-20 rule. 80% of men are the undesirables. They're the untouchables. They're the invisibles. They're, as Homath would say, not people. Then there's the 20%ers. Those are the guys who are not necessarily attractive. They're just not unattractive. And so those are the guys who I've called the qualifiers. These are the guys who might do, if they can in some way have something unique about them, something that gets an emotional rise out of them. If they're loyal to a fault, they make a lot of money. There's some value added prospect to them that sort of, they might not be the best that woman can do, but they have certain qualities and certain pluses and benefits that are value added prospects to that guy, that women will go, all right, I'll give him a shot. Right. And then there's the 4.5%ers. Those are the guys like Justin Waller, Jason Momoa, Jack Reacher. Like, those are the guys that women, the 4.5% of men that women want to initiate some sort of outreach and they want to fuck those guys. If they had a fuck buddy, that'd be the dude that they'd want to be a fuck buddy with. Actually, they would probably want to lock that guy down. So you've got the qualifiers, the 20%ers, you've got the high value men, which are the 4.5%ers, and then you've got the 80% guys who are the untouchables. Those are the unattractive guys, right? So there's 80%, 20%, and 4.5%. Of those guys, the people who are the guys who are the most fucked are the 20%ers, not the 80. The 80s know where they're at. Their whole life is either jerk off or find a way out of the 80%. And most of those guys don't care. They're like, I don't care. I'll wait for the sex robots. I'll wait for the meteor. I'll get a dog and a sex doll. That'll be the extent of my life. I'll never reproduce, and no one will care. And they'll be right. And then there's the 4.5%er guys who are the high value men who have their pick of the fucking litter, and they can fuck who they want when they want because they're rewarded with women's sexuality and their availability. Great. The 20%ers are the guys who are fucked, because they're the ones that have to keep answering the same question over and over and over again. Is he the best I can do? And if the answer is ever no, that's a strike against you. And you probably heard this before. It's like 10, was it 1-0 fuck erases 10 attaboys. The same applies to the 20%er guys. They're the ones that have to keep qualifying and chasing their tail over and proving themselves, proving their quality to milady over and over and over again. Those are the guys who will pedestalize women. The 80%ers don't pedestalize women because they don't give a shit. The 4.5%ers, they don't pedestalize women because they're sport fucking, because they're guys who fuck. The 20%ers, those are the guys who pedestalize women because it's in their interest to do so, or like they believe it's in their interest to do so. So in that case, if you're in that situation as one of the 20%ers and you're constantly having to qualify, those are the guys that are average men that average women don't want to get with generally, unless there's some way that guy can put himself out above and compete with the other 20%ers to prove that has something going for him that's better than the other dudes, right? And that's where you get guys who get moralistic, because that's a 20%er, methodology to get women. There's the guys who say, you know what, doesn't matter, I'm going to make a shit ton of money. Those guys are the 20%ers because they lead with their wallet and they think that money is the key. Then there might be the looks maxers, who are still the 20%ers, but they're going, you know what, I'm going to play to my strengths. I got a pretty good looking body. I don't make a lot of money. I'm still a bartender at fucking, the Win, but doesn't matter because chicks only want to suck my dick and they only want to have sex with me anyway. So I'm going to max out on my looks. Then there's the guys who are the game guys, who primarily just gross out. Most guys will gross out on whatever they think that their greatest strength is in that 20%. But really, all of them are doing the same thing: qualifying. So, what do we have here? Let's go back to this. Oh, Ashley, this era of content is dying. I have one to say, but have too money to say it. And OF ain't paying like it used to. All right, there's your. Please come back after your English as a second language course is over. Buck White, any tips on trying to do something with a hot chick I work with, good or bad mood? You would have to give me way more details than that, man. I don't know any of the particulars. So if you want to email me, Buck, I'll be happy to give you an analysis. How's that? Jordan Peterson had that cosmic sex. Yeah. Yes. It's the cosmic dragon. It's the eternal female, or the divine female. 22 days till Homeworld 3. Yes, I know. I'm waiting for it. Did you like Dune Part 2? I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen Dune Part 2 yet because I was waiting for my wife to get back from where she was going, so we could watch it together, because she really likes Dune as well. I will say this though, since we were on actually, let me finish this out. Let me get to Ashley here, because she needs attention. Everybody give Ashley attention. There we go. Okay, good. Y'all not average. Y'all losers. Y'all losers. You are white and this is the way you talk. Or you leave us cheat with young poon. Okay. That is basically your existential fear as a woman, is to invest your best, most fertile years and your youth and your beauty and your sexuality and your availability in a guy who you think is a good bet, but you're afraid that he's not going to be a good bet, and he's probably going to fuck his secretary, and he's going to get a trophy wife later, and you're going to be left ass out with kids in tow, and he's going to go right off into the sunset with his hot piece of ass. Yeah. And if that's the way you think, it's probably because you're focused on the wrong motherfucker. All right. That said, since we're talking about movies, I hate to say I was right, but I was right. Actually, I don't hate to say I was right. Kyle, did you see Napoleon?
Yes.
What did you think of Napoleon?
Butchered. I would say it was butchered.
I hate that fucking movie.
Yep.
I knew I was going to hate it, but I hate that even more. I watched about 2/3 of that movie and I turned it off because, and I can't even believe Ridley Scott was responsible for that movie. Well, maybe I do now, but I made this prediction. I said, they're going to make this movie all about Katerina.
Yeah.
Catherine. And I was right. That's all they did. All it was about Napoleon, who was, for all intents and purposes, one of the most brilliant military minds of any century, was innovative and unique in the tactics that he employed back in the Napoleonic era. We even call it the Napoleonic era because of this guy. The motherfucker crowned himself emperor of France. What do they focus on? Katerina's pussy. That's what they fucking focused on. They made him into this simpering beta male, weak masculine projecting piece of shit. And it was interspliced with just a few combat engagements, right? And even when they were doing the military campaign, very brief segments in that fucking movie, it was all narrated by, was it Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
letters being sent to Katerina, whatever, from the front line. So they should have just named the fucking movie Katerina or Catherine or whatever the fuck it was, because it was about her. It wasn't about fucking Napoleon. If anything, it was, this is how weak and how much of a pussy hound and how much of a beta male this short king was, right? And I'm like, there was so much more they could have done with it. There was like, they could have done the military campaigns. They could have explained why he crowned himself fucking emperor to begin with. They had the balls and the audacity to do that. And they made it sound like he did it to impress Catherine. Like, no, bitch. It's because of what was going on in France and in the social scene and the political scene in France at that time. It was the worst fucking, I guess I'm not the guy. I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy who turns off a movie. Even if I hate a fucking movie, I'll still watch it to go, okay, I watched the whole thing. Now I can tell you it was fucked. It was stupid. I couldn't fucking get through it.
Okay, so
absolutely couldn't get through it.
It's Josephine and then
Josephine,
Mary
my bad.
Lucy.
Yeah, Katerine. Where did I get Katerine? Katerine was one of the other ones, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm totally wrong. Josephine. They should have called it Josephine. Oh, she couldn't have his male heir. Oh, so he had to divorce her. Yeah, because that's what they fucking did at that time. They had to do that. It's not because he's some weak piece of shit. Then they show him with like the teenage girls and stuff like that to make him seem like he's a pedo. And it's like, what else? The guy fucking like essentially owned most of like Western Europe during that time.
The Genghis Khan of his time.
He was. And I mean, his biggest fucking fuck up was like trying to invade Russia
during winter,
during the winter time, which of course you know who, the Austrian painter who we can't mention on YouTube, decided to do the same fucking thing. They don't even touch that.
Like,
that was like a not even an afterthought. I'm surprised they even put that shit in there. The only reason they put that in there is so he could write more letters back to Josephine.
Yep.
Stupid. Fucking, it's a pointless movie. Why did they even do it? We are all worse off because of you, Ridley Scott. Throwaway. Is it possible for me to be in the top 4% through work? Good question. Or is being in the top 4% something that comes naturally? Innately, you mean? Like you're born the 4%? Well, put it this way. There's no such thing as a natural. And I'll explain to you why. There are guys who are born with natural good looks, but the guy still had to learn the same things you have to learn. He just learned them at an accelerated rate because he did have an advantage, but he still had to learn. He still had to learn what would work for him in whatever sexual marketplace he had to find himself in. So there's no such thing as a quote unquote natural. However, are there men who are born into positions of privilege, are born in, and by that I mean like money, demographics, society, culture, good looks? Yes, of course there are. Are there guys who are born with genetic advantages? Absolutely, both physique wise and in personality, because personality is genetic, or like a good portion of it is genetic. Okay. So, but can you go from the 80% to the 4.5%? Yeah, with a lot of fucking work. If you know what you're after and you know you have that single mind, and most guys don't have the determination to do it. They don't have the perseverance to do it. Can you do it? Yes. Can you go from the 20% into the 4.5? Yes, a little bit easier than the 80%ers, but you are also learning things along the way that the quote unquote natural isn't learning too. So quite honestly, if you go from the 20% and you improve yourself so much so that you're at least, you can hold your own with the 4.5%, you're going to be at a distinct advantage because you're going to learn lessons from having to go through all of that the guy who was sort of born on third and thought he hit a triple, right? So yeah, is it possible? Yes. It's not a genetic thing per se. It's definitely, genetics give you an advantage, but it's not something you're necessarily born into. Are there guys who could be in, this is a better question. Are there guys who could be in the 4.5%, because of their physicality, but they're not, but they're actually in the 20% because of their mindset? Absolutely. So it's not necessarily a natural innate thing as much as it is maximizing your potential so that you can get into that. For instance, it's also contextual. If I am a 5'11" white male who looks like I do, and I step off the plane in Quezon City or Manila in the Philippines, I'm already at an advantage amongst the local population of men because I look the way that I do. Does that mean that I am innately in the 4.5%? Probably not back in the United States, but here, fuck yeah, I am, as long as I own it. And most guys just simply don't know how to own it. What's your thoughts on Warhammer going woke? I already gave you my thoughts on Warhammer going woke. I think it's a tragedy. You know what? Let me, since you gave me this, it gives me an opportunity to say this. The people who want, like, it's always females, but it's also simpering male gamers too. Lord knows I've had to deal with them over the years. When you say you have a problem, like if I were to say I have a problem with, I have a real problem, like IP wise or artistically, I have a real problem artistically with retconning 40K to force fit and wedge like multiculturalism, especially multiculturalism. And I'm not that guy, but for 40K, I will hold that to a point, because 40K is not about multiculturalism. It is about xenophobia, literally about like suffer not the witch to live, right? Like the empire, the Imperium is based on xenophobia. So to say, oh, it needs to be more inclusive. No, it fucking doesn't, because it's based on a dystopian nightmare, grim darkness of the far future reality. It's not fucking Star Trek. Got that? But the reason why people want to put female custodes, or they want to make Warhammer more female friendly by putting female custodes in, or making, like, people are still just fucking angry that there are no female space marines. There will be at some point. There will be. They'll break down and make female space marines. Trust me on that. But as it stands right now, they haven't. They've sort of held their ground up to this point. But it's almost as if making female custodes a thing is throwing a bone to angry women, mostly, who don't care about the fucking hobby, don't care about the IP, don't care about the story or the fluff or the background. They don't fucking care. All they care about is force fitting a tits into fucking power armor. That's all they fucking care about, because they think that will be a win against the patriarchy. That's all it is. It's not going to improve the game. It's not going to improve the background. It's not going to make it more interesting. It's not going to make people buy more fucking plastic from China. It's not going to do any of that. The only thing it's going to do is appease that psychotic mentality, pandering once again to emotionalists. It is no longer a work of art. It is no longer something that its original creators intended. It is now something that fans want to happen. It's cultist. It's cultism is what it is. And it will fundamentally change the nature of the game and fundamentally change the nature of the thing. Well, you don't have to play with them if you don't want to. Yeah, and I don't plan on it. And I will be a Dungeons and Dragons purist, like a OSR bro SR. I will play first edition. I play with the guys in Masculine Geek. We don't play anything but the way Gary Gygax intended us to play the fucking game. We also, if it comes down to it, I won't play fucking female space marines. But the thing is, you don't really need to play female space marines. You know why? Because if you're playing Slaanesh anyways, or Emperor's Children, there have always been female space marines. If you're just playing the wrong faction, you just need to start playing the most degenerate fucking Coomer. If you want Coomers, you want degeneracy, you want hedonism, you want one tit or four tits or six tits. The Slaanesh is your fucking chaos power, man. Just join up, man. If you want to inject all of that fucking wokesy degeneracy into my fucking game, just stop right there and just change your faction over to Emperor's Children or Chaos Slaanesh, because that's really what you're doing. That's really what you want. Thoughts on income, fitness, then passport strategy? Income, fitness, money, muscles, and game. I'll leave you, since that's a $2 thing. What? Legit, just got a booty call. Text, see you later. Awesome, Lee. If you don't like, give us a report right now from the road. If Pixar didn't fucking happen. Thoughts on fitness, then passport fitness than passport strategy. I think that guys who are in I understand the impetus to want to go to another country so you'll be it seems advantageous. But I will tell you this, I've been to fucking Quezon City, I've been to Pagudpud. By the way, shout out to Filipina P, who is fucking killing it on her YouTube channel right now. I follow her, and just because I thought she was cute and I think she's funny, and she's occasionally she like throws a bone towards, she shouts me out. Filipina P, PEA, Filipina P. Please go sub to her channel. You will, if nothing else, it will be good humor for you. But I looked at her channel, dude, and Filipina P, and I was like looking at her numbers. I was looking at the views. I'm like, holy shit. She doesn't have that much in subs, but like her view count on her videos, holy fuck. And she's got more fucking views than a lot of like well-known red pill. Like, I mean, she's up in my numbers, man. She's got good numbers for what she's doing. And I think it's because she hit the right narrative, which is the passport bros at the right fucking time. Well done. A+, Filipina P. You're welcome on this show anytime you want. But I've been to the Philippines. I've been to, Panama so many times I can't even remember. I've been to, Amsterdam and Holland, the Netherlands. I've been to Belgium, been to Germany, been to France. I've been to Mexico, God knows how many times. It's almost like, you like, yeah, okay, keep going, you know. Trying to think where else. Anyways, I will say this, like, if you think that going to the Philippines or going to like Southeast Asia will put you at an advantage in the sexual marketplace, it absolutely will. But if you don't have game in the United States, you're just another fucking white ass tourist in the Philippines with no fucking game. So there's still an element of being able to carry on a conversation. And the reason why I say that is because of the global sexual marketplace. The Filipina girls, and I'm just using the Philippines. This could be fucking Brazil for all I care. But the girls in that country, in that underdeveloped third world country, that hellhole, that shithole that Trump wants, Trump always says, those chicks, they still got cell phones. And those chicks still think they could possibly perceptually get flew out by Drake to fucking Miami for the next fucking yacht party. Okay. They still understand congruency. They might pander to you, white tourists with no fucking game, and want to suck your dick, but they know that that's why you're in their country to begin with. So a lot of the stuff that people think puts them at advantage, it will, if you know what you're doing. If you're a guy with money, muscles, and game in the United States, and you can more or less, hold your own in the US, and you go to the Philippines, you're in a great fucking position, great advantage. In that case, 100% agree with fucking, if you think white women, if you think women in Western countries suck and you want to go to another country where they're all very feminine and everything, do yourself a favor and do your homework on that country before you go. If you're going to Estonia, it's a whole lot different than going to fucking Quezon City. So just keep that in mind. Do your fucking homework, because otherwise you'll get rolled when you go there. Oh, wait a minute. Drake. I need that sound drop. Drake. All right. So I've already mentioned Friends with Benefits. We've already talked about that. I already talked about Tammy Faye Peterson. Let's see. Okay. I'm of the opinion that Friends with Benefits is really reserved for guys who fuck, right? Guys who have some sort of, they have the sport fucking gene, right? Guys who aren't, well, and here's why, because I need to bring this up first. Hang on one second. I was going to read this to you. I think I might, now's a good time as any. It's a concept called strategic pluralism theory. Okay. What is strategic pluralism theory, Rolo? Now let's go with this one. I've written so much about strategic pluralism theory, I'm like blue in the face, but where did I put this? Oh, maybe that's not the best one. Hang on. People don't think I talk about paternity, promiscuity, and poly. Dude, like, before you guys come at me, please fucking read my work. Like, do me the solid. Rollo never talks about monogamy, bitch. Get the fuck out of here.
No, Rollo, I only judge by the cover, you know?
Yep. Oh, there we go. Oh man, this is such a good one. God, I wrote this one called Little Big Head. It's like thinking with your little head instead of your big head. People love that, but it's like, it's not what you think it is. Sorry, I should have had this queued up. It's my bad. Let me see. Yeah, it's called Strategic Pluralism Theory, but there's a whole thing that I have on here. Where'd that go? No. I'm just going to have to call this up. Hang on a second. Strategic Pluralism. There we go. Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's there. I should show the Tommy Lahren video sometime. How awesome would that be? Oh, maybe that's it. Sorry, this is taking so long. There's a quote that I wanted to write or wanted to put down for you guys. Is this it? Here we go. Okay, perfect. All right. So this is it. This is strategic pluralism theory. And you guys kind of have to sort of wrap your heads around this first. Now, so when I talk about hypergamy with women, I've got to point this out because this has been like really kind of bastardized recently by Alex from Datepsych. And I want to, I'm not going to flame Alex here because I just think he's confidently ignorant about the red pill and confidently ignorant about what we think is hypergamy, what we think is dual mating strategy versus mate shifting hypothesis. Okay. But before we get to that point, I have to make a comparison here about between a distinction between hypergamy and strategic pluralism theory. Okay. Hypergamy, only women are hypergamous. Okay. There's I've written constantly about this. Only women are hypergamous. People want to say, well, don't men and women make don't they want the best of the best of the best? It's like, well, yeah, but that's making comparisons. Hypergamy is specifically, at least the expanded definition of hypergamy is specifically about sexual market value and sexual strategies, mating strategies. Okay. For women always date up. Hypergamy never seeks its own level. It's always looking for the bigger and better deal, which is exactly why I was explaining earlier about the idea anyways, that women will never find the guy that they're not settling for. Even when they find a guy who they think is a great guy, there will always be that hypergamous doubt that he's not the best that she could have done. There's always like, oh, I should have tried harder to get with Chad back in my college days, because if I had locked him down, he was really the one. He was the one that got away. It's the premise of the alpha widow, right? The alpha widow is really just a story about the one who got away. He's the one I was supposed to be with, but I didn't work out. I couldn't lock him down. He was one of the 4.5%ers. He was a guy. He was an alpha male. He was a guy that other men wanted to be and other women wanted to fuck. He really loved me. If things would have gone differently, my life that could have been, but now I'm stuck with this piece of shit. Or maybe he's not a piece of shit. He's just not as exciting as the guy who used to, the helicopter pilot from fucking Brazil who used to fuck the shit out of me. And we had such a great time. And I'll never forget the dude ever again. And I'm going to secretly name my son after him. So I'll always be reminded of Dave. Right. Or always be reminded of Chad. My son's name. I insisted that my son be named Chad because I always want to be reminded of Chad because he's the one that got away. Right? I mean, literally women will do that. They will name their sons after the guy who fucked them really, really hard in college. And you and the guy that she's settling for, the guy whose last name she wouldn't take in marriage, that guy's the one who's kind of like always going to be the one he's the qualifier. He's the guy that has to fucking keep qualifying over and over and over again because he's never going to live up to the ghost of the alpha widow. So that being said, that's the hypergamous side of things. The strategic pluralism side is a little bit more interesting. This is the male side of all of that. Okay. So I'm going to read this to you. According to strategic pluralism theory, and this is by Gangstad and Simpson. Gangstad, I believe it's Stephen Gangstad, was one of the colleagues of Dr. Marty Hazelton's, who I quote quite often on this show, and I have quoted on my blog and in my books really since 2007, even as far back as the So Suave days. But this is part of Gangstad's thing. Okay, according to strategic pluralism theory, men have evolved to pursue reproductive strategies that are contingent on their value on the mating market. Okay, more attractive men accrue reproductive benefits from spending more time seeking multiple mating partners and relatively less time investing in offspring. Ergo, more attractive men accrue better reproductive benefits from spinning plates, dating non-exclusively, fucking around, having multiple opportunities because they're higher value on that sexual market, on the sexual market scales, right? If you ever wondered why men tend to be more hierarchical in their thinking when they're organizing societies, when they're organizing businesses, organizing militaries, organizing competitive like sports teams and stuff like that. If you ever wonder why there's a hierarchy, look no further than strategic pluralism theory, because there are guys who are leaders of men and then there are followers. There are the 4.5%ers, and then there are the 20%ers, and then there are the 80%ers. Okay. And this is from a sexual market value perspective. I'm not saying from a social value perspective. Okay. So more attractive men accrue reproductive benefits from spending more time seeking multiple mating partners and relatively less time investing in offspring. Okay. That's the baby daddy. That's the one who fucks the single mom, your single mother that you decided to step up and be this, not the stepdad, but the guy who stepped up. That woman is getting with the guy who has more gets more reproductive benefits from seeking multiple mating partners. Got it. And less time investing in offspring. In contrast, the reproductive effort of less attractive men who do not have the same mating opportunities is better allocated to investing heavily in their mates and offspring and spending relatively less time seeking additional mates. Lesser men who are less attractive, men who are lower value in the sexual marketplace, tend to put all their eggs in one basket, all of their efforts, all of their investment in one woman and in the offspring that either they produce or that were already produced. And now they're like a single mom and now they're going to have sex with them and they're going to hopefully have reproduction with that woman. Okay. So when we look at somebody like, say, Dr. Jordan Peterson, we just saw a minute ago on video saying like, I have a tendency to pedestalize women. Yes. Because you are a less attractive man who does not have the same mating opportunities as more attractive men. Ergo, you invest more heavily in your mate, pedestalization, and offspring and spending relatively less time seeking additional mates. So if you lack opportunity, if you lack sexual abundance, if you are not in the 4.5% and you're in the 20%, it probably behooves you to do one of two things. Either put all your eggs in one basket and invest only in one single woman and only put yourself wholeheartedly into raising the offspring that you have with that woman. It's probably in your better interests because you do not have this, you don't know when your next mating opportunity is going to happen. Thus, that has an effect on how you see the sexual marketplace and how you see the nature of intersexual dynamics between men and women. So when a guy says it's only should be one man and one woman, and those guys who are in the 4.5%, those chads who are licking the ice cream, who are ruining it for the rest of us, they're immoral. And nothing works better than morality and ethics when it comes to intrasexual competition and intrasexual combat. Because what it is it's a technique to disqualify guys who are more attractive and accrue reproductive benefits from spending more time seeking multiple mating partners. One of those mating partners might be the woman that the less attractive man is actually now pairing with. He might even be raising her children or his children as a result of that situation. So it's men with abundance versus men who do not have that same abundance. Lesser attractive men, more attractive men. Now Gangstad puts it in these terms because he is trying to kind of soften the blow. But really what this is, and I'm going to continue here with this because this is actually pretty good. Essentially, men follow an R or K reproductive strategy according to their perceived sexual market value. Since the majority of men fall into the low sexual market value side of the reproductive equation, social conventions that served those men's reproductive interests had to be developed and standardized. The resolution of men's existential fear needed to be instituted and standardized to ensure the largest number of men could be relatively certain that the children they sired were going to be their own biological children. Enter monogamy. That's why we have marriage. That's why we have those things. That's why we have a formalized sense that marriage is really just a formalization of socially enforced monogamy. Like Christians, sorry, you don't have a monopoly on marriage. Jews, Muslims, you don't have a monopoly on marriage. Like I said, we've been doing marriage in multiple cultures that are isolated from one another for a very fucking long time. Marriage is a formalization of monogamy. That's what it boils down to. So you can say you take that up with your God or your Bible or your holy book. The fact of the matter is that functionally, that's what marriage is about. It's formalizing monogamy. This bitch is my bitch. And this man is my man. Okay. But what I was going to get at is the R or the K reproductive strategy. Now there's the R reproductive is putting all of your eggs in one basket. It is investing in your I hope I'm getting this right. I think I'm getting this right. R versus K relates to selection combinations. Okay. So really what it comes down to is if there is, I believe it's okay, so K selection. K reproductive selection is you only have one offspring or very few offspring, and so therefore you have to put a lot of energy and effort into those offspring. The R selection is you fuck a lot and you have a lot of babies, right? If it's like mice or rats or rabbits, like they fuck like rabbits, that's an R selection reproductive process. K selection is we only got one of these kids and we better protect it and we better put all of our energy into this one, into making sure that this kid survives and thrives, or this offspring. Okay, so that's K selection versus R selection. However, if you look at the difference between, like, say, strategic pluralism theory, you've got the CADs and the CHADs, the 4.5%ers who follow technically an abundance theory or abundance mating strategy, which is have a lot of sex with a lot of women, reproduce in number. A K selection for men are the men who are less attractive and have to keep qualifying over and over again so that they can put all of their energy and their time and their investment into their children. But the difference between those two is there are more guys who are lesser men, who are lesser attractive than there are guys who are actually more attractive. So a guy like Justin Waller can afford to have an R selection. I'm using this figuratively, an R selection mating. So it's not like he's actually fucking like rabbits. Well, maybe he is fucking like rabbits, right? Or I should say reproducing like rabbits, versus the guy who is the K selection guy. So bear that in mind as I keep going with today's lesson here, which we're coming up on it. So really what it comes down to is when we're talking about friends with benefits, you're still having almost like the best of both worlds. That's why I say that guys who have the sports fucking gene, the guys who are the 4.5%ers, they have an easier time with friends or with developing a friends with benefits situation than certainly lesser men. And I use the term loosely, the 20%ers, the 80%ers, right? If you're a 20%er, if you got into a friends with, I would love to know if you're like one of these guys who has to keep qualifying all the time. I wonder how common it is for guys in sort of like the qualifiers category have with actually developing a friends with benefits situation with the woman versus a guy who looks like Justin Waller. I keep using that name. The guys who are in the 4.5% probably have a much easier time developing something like that than anyone else. So let's go back here. What do we got? Here we go. Martin Carlson. Have you seen Endrick? A great soccer talent. No. And his girlfriend, Gabriella Miranda, Miranda's love contract. No, I haven't. Is there a love contract? You must be in love with me forever. Isn't that like a marriage vow? The year is 2049. You sit down to watch Access Vegas episode 1128. Rollo has managed to invite 9 women teachers that slept with their students in hopes to provide dual mating strategy. Who knew yelling at whammon is meta still? Yeah, probably still will be. And yes, just to answer your question, I will be doing a show on female teacher predator statutory rapists. That is coming. It's in the works right now. I'm just waiting to get it. I think I might do it in May because I've been collecting all of these. Man, I can't even believe how many stories there are of female teachers that get after it. It's unbelievable, man. I mentioned it, like Kyle. I mentioned this on last week's show, and I was like,
shit,
if you know any, like I was waiting for more of these to come in for the month of April, and you guys came through, man. I got probably an extra 4 or 5 because I put out the call, and now I think there's like 7 in the month of April. There's individual like new cases in the month of April. If this was like, and then March, I think there was like 10. In February there was like another 6 or 7 in February. I have them all in folders like per month. So I'm looking at these, I'm going, if this were male teachers, oh my God, we'd have this congressional task force, overnight it would be approved. And what got me is, again, I said this, and I think it was last week or the week before, I put out a tweet and I said, there have been more female teacher statutory rapists in the month of March than there have ever been, than in 10 years have there been like incel killers, right? Because we're coming up on the anniversary of the 10th anniversary of Elliot Rodger, right? Which everybody keeps going back to and like, see, that's why those incels are dangerous. No, female teachers in public school system, they're fucking dangerous. And we need a fucking task force, and we need a fucking research. We need a government DHS NGO, and we need to put these women on terrorist watch fucking lists because it happens with such regularity that it's a fucking epidemic. But no, we're going to go and pretend that incels are like ruining the fertility rate of the United States instead of like looking at what's right in fucking front of us. Unbelievable. A man is hypergamous when he has options with multiple female friends. No, he's not. with benefits until he finds the right woman, not only long-term, but the mother of his children. Hello, Gene Simmons. You got to remember, Gene Simmons put off marrying, was it Shannon Tweed, for a long, long time. In fact, that was one of the points of contention between Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons in Paul Stanley's autobiography. Was the reason why Paul Stanley didn't invite Gene to his wedding, because he'd been married a couple times, but he didn't invite him to his most, like the wedding that took, right? Was because Gene wouldn't marry Shannon, and made that very public, right? Because he just didn't have the same, like Gene Simmons is very fucking red pill. Paul Stanley, not so much. Paul Stanley probably like fuck more women than any human male has a right to, but he has a different outlook than Gene. And Gene was just like, I'm not marrying. It doesn't make any sense for me to get married, right? Even though like he'd had like 2 or 3 kids with her already, but Paul didn't, because Gene didn't think that Paul should get married, and he did, and it was a point of contention between the two of them, at least according to Paul Stanley in his autobiography, which I've read. Really good. I like, sometimes there's Geddy Lee from Rush has a really great new biography that I just got, and I just kind of dug into it not too long ago. I like those kind of retrospectives. Makes me wonder sometimes. Okay. So I got to Jordan Peterson. I called out, I got one last thing I got to do. Okay, so I want to point one more thing out here, because I was just trying to, I would be remiss if I didn't get to this. This is from Alex from Datepsych, who keeps thinking that he knows what he's talking about and simply is just has no frame of reference for any of this shit, right? So this is from a tweet that he just put out, like, I think a day or two ago. And he's like, a couple of days ago, someone asked me why research around female infidelity is more consistent with mate switching hypothesis and less consistent with dual mating hypothesis. This research is an example and will explain below. Now, I just wanted to call these 2 points out here. Understanding these 2 hypotheses. Okay, Alex, you're fundamentally mistaken in both of these. That's why I'm doing this right now. 1, the dual mating hypothesis. Female infidelity is an adaptation to secure good genes from an extra pair sire while maintaining the current primary relationship. No, it's not. The idea of dual mating is rooted in the conflict between finding a guy who has good mating qualities, as in like he's good genes dad, like good CAD versus good dad. It is genetic benefits versus long-term security benefits. That's what it's really about. Okay. So by that definition, that's really what dual mating is about. It's like dual mating hypothesis is not about, is not really even founded in infidelity to begin with. If you're going to cast it in the context of infidelity, then we can have a conversation, but you got to understand the fundamental principles of dual mating first. Dual mating is nothing more than alpha fucks and beta bucks. Alpha fucks meaning finding the right guy, ideally in the same combination in one guy, but more often than not, it's in 2 different guys, right? The guy who's the hot guy in the foam cannon party who, you met on spring break in Cancun, right? And then there's the guy who is good dad. He's the guy who's going to be dependable. Not as exciting as hot guy in the foam cannon party, but the guy who's a good dad. He's the guy who's a provider, protector, parentally invested, makes a good chunk of change. When it comes to provisioning, protection, and parental investment, that guy's got it. But he's boring, and he's not as. That's why we were talking about Kaka last fucking week, right? He's if taken to the logical extreme, he's too perfect because he's not exciting, he's not fun, he's not dangerous, he's not the roller coaster. He's not the guy who's going to give her vagina tingles, right? That's a Royceism, by the way. She's not going to tingle in her nether parts for the guy who's too perfect. She wants a guy who's not perfect, because usually the guys who aren't perfect take what they want and they fuck really good. They're into sport fucking, and they look better than the guy, realistically better than the guy who is too nice and too perfect. Okay, so really, dual mating is not about trying to find that in deliberately finding that in separate guys. It's actually deliberately trying to find it in the same guy. But the problem is and not just humans do this, like fucking like birds do this, fish do this, fucking walruses do, like fucking seals do this shit, right? Sea lions do the same shit. You need to read, and this is just a suggestion, Alex, if you're watching this, you need to read this great book, and it's called Promiscuity, and it's by Dr. Tim Burkhead. He is not an evolutionary psychologist. He is an evolutionary biologist, and he goes into the reasons for promiscuity versus monogamy. Are human beings, period, are humans innately monogamous? Yes. Are they innately promiscuous? Also, yes. Both can be true at the same time. So bear that in mind and read that book, because a lot of the stuff that I reference, and if we were to ever sit down together, that would be the first place I would go, would be Tim Burkhead's book, Promiscuity. And again, not an evolutionary psychologist, but an evolutionary biologist. So keep that in mind. It's genetic benefits versus long-term security, provisioning, protection, and parental investment benefits. Ideally, it'd be great if they were both in the same guy. That's the dream come true, right? That's Prince Charming. But more and more often, women have to women and females of all species have to find a way to get the best genetic benefits and get the best security beta bucks benefits, so they can ensure their survival and the survival of their offspring. And the best way to do that is cuckoldry, and not just in human beings, but also in other animals. So now the other part is this is, again, I will reiterate this because apparently this didn't sink in last time. But when I said we were talking about the difference between retroactive cuckoldry and proactive cuckoldry, a woman does not, especially today in today's social media, communication driven era, women do not have to convince their husbands that the baby is theirs if it's not, in fact, their biological child. That would be proactive cuckoldry. Retroactive cuckoldry is far more common. She has babies with she has a baby daddy, and then she finds a stepfather, because it is way more socially acceptable and socially normalized to have a guy who's not the stepdad, but the guy who stepped up, right? And to praise that guy and turn him into a very noble person for having done so. Effectively, that man is a cuckold. He is assuming the parental investment responsibilities of another man at the expense of his own resources. That's the definition of cuckoldry. So to say that, oh, well, the actual incidence of cuckoldry is very, very rare. It's 3% or 10%, or like in some cases, I'll hear people say it's 20%. I doubt it's 20%, but we can see from genetic records that one man for every 17 women reproduced as far back as 8,000 years, right? Right around the time of agrarianism, like when we started planting farms and shit like that. That's narrowed to 1 in 7 today, but it's still fucking 1 in 7. Okay. So there is more reproductive variance amongst men than there is with women. That supports dual mating strategy. If you got something against that, I would love to see it, because I will tell you right now, just from once we plotted the human genome, the genetic record right now shows and is very strong reinforcement for the dual mating strategy. Okay. Now, whether or not that reproduction happens at the result of, like, say, Genghis Khan raping and pillaging back in the day, you can make an argument for that. The fact of the matter remains, it's at least as far back as 8,000 years, it was one man for every 17 women reproduced. That's not just Genghis Khan raping and pillaging. Okay. Number 2, the mate switching hypothesis, female infidelity, is an adaptation to switch mates. It allows easier transition from one long-term partner to another long-term partner. Okay. Once again, asking the wrong question. Because for mate switching hypothesis to be true, a mate has to have happened before you can have the switch. So what is the innate disposition of women before a pairing happens? If that is, if you think that mate switching is the actual innate, evolved way of the most logical strategy. I'm talking about there's proclivities in their strategies here. The mating has to have happened. The pairing has to have happened for there to be a switch in the fucking first place. How did we get to the pairing in the first place? Dual mating hypothesis. That's how we got there. Okay. So asking the wrong question. Now, the other thing that gets me on this, I have to also point this out, is I am sick to fucking death of having marriage and pairing and monogamy be the litmus test for a sexual strategy. It doesn't. Evolution doesn't care how the babies were born. It only cares that the babies were born. How it comes to that is immaterial. Your morality, considerations of ethics, considerations of, oh, it's right and it's wrong, this is the rest of the justice, makes no fucking deal, makes no fucking difference to the lion or the cheetah that just ran down that fucking antelope or that gnu or whatever those things are. The lion who kills the small pony of a zebra, that's pretty fucked up, but that's the way it works. And that's the same thing. Like, we can also point out primates will tend, like an alpha male primate, a gorilla, macaque monkeys, chimpanzees, even fucking bonobos. If there is an alpha male in that troop and that alpha deposes the former rival, the first thing or first order of business is to kill off all of his offspring, to ruthlessly kill them. That's why, hypothesized anyways, that's why human females have concealed estrus. This is not evolutionary psychology. This is evolutionary biology. So when we look at the proclivity of alpha male primates to kill the offspring of the previous alpha male rival, whether he got ran off or he got killed himself, what happens then is it sends those females into estrus so that guy can that male monkey can reproduce with them. It also happens with lions, also happens with higher order mammals. Lions, like if there's a alpha male lion, the first order of business is kill off all the little ones, kill off all the rivals' offspring. Sounds fucked up, but that's the way it fucking works. Again, evolution doesn't care about it doesn't care how the babies are born. It cares that the babies are born. So evolution doesn't care about what you think is going to be the most sustainable fucking male or female. But prior to that, there has to be a pairing for that to fucking happen. So let's keep going. What should we expect on the theoretical ground of dual mating hypothesis? Dissatisfaction with the primary partner shouldn't predict or be a strong predictor of female infidelity. Female infidelity isn't about how bad your relationship is. No, it does. And this is just ignorance on your part. I can point this out in dozens of different research papers over the course of like really the last 30 years from Dr. Marty Hazelton at UCLA. She says specifically in those research papers that if that couple, like when we're talking about ovulatory shift, which is really what dual mating strategy is based on, if we have a partnership that is already there, that is satisfying to that woman, when a woman goes into quote unquote estrus or goes into her fertile phase of her menstrual cycle, she is more prone to want to fuck the guy that she's already with. If that guy lays down the good dick, if that guy if they are in a quote unquote satisfying relationship, that woman is more proceptive to having sex with that guy rather than trying to go out and find new dick. Okay. It's not that she just gets horny all of a sudden. She goes, fuck this guy, I'm going to go fuck random. That doesn't happen. And you would know this if you read Marty Hazelton's work, which by the way is available free. I've given you the fucking link God knows how many times. It's all PDFs. You can pick it up from UCLA. There's no paywall, no nothing. All you have to do is go fucking read. And in every single instance where she has talked about ovulatory shift, that is one thing one detail she always includes in every single one of them. So again, false presumption, and from that false, it's garbage in, garbage out. So anything that proceeds out of that is just fucking a straw man on your part. That's how this works. Okay. So here we go. Let's see. What What should we expect on the theoretical grounds of dual mating strategy? Well, since this is a straw man argument on your part that your hypothesis is fucking effectively meaningless right now. Okay. It's simply about acquiring better genes. No, it's about both. It's an adaptation to maintain the primary relationship. Falling in love with the affair partner is contrary to this and would be maladaptive. Again, false. Evolution doesn't care how the babies are born. It cares that the babies are born. Evolution doesn't care if you're in love with this person or you're not. Trust me, evolution didn't care when Genghis Khan was running around rampaging, and essentially 1 in 200 people on planet Earth are genetic descendants from Genghis Khan. Nature doesn't care how Genghis Khan reproduced. It cares that he reproduced. That's all that matters. Trust me, I'm pretty sure Genghis Khan, as much as he fucked being as prolific as he was, I'm sure he probably didn't fall in love with every single one of those women. I feel pretty safe in that presumption. What do we actually see? Women cheat when the relationship is bad. No, women also carry a plan B. 70% of women have a guy waiting in the wings. I covered that on Access Vegas not too long ago. And this is something that's been going on for a long time. I think it was 2015. I wrote about the Plan B guy. Hell, I can even go dig it up right now if you'd like. Here we go. Plan B. This just came back up in the news not too long ago. I think it was funny because like what's old is new kind of thing. Plan B. Here we go. Hell, I'll even share it with you here. This is what I wrote. There we go. Plan B. There we go. Can you see that, Kyle? Oh, oops. Hang on. Oh, I got to take this off. Hold on a second. There we go. And then put me down here. Okay. Plan B. Remember, this is in 2016. Oh, those red pill guys don't know anything about anything. They don't have any history in all of this. This is March 14th, 2016. Plan B, 2,000 female respondents. 43% of men 43% of the respondents have a backup man if current relationship ends. This has gone up to 70% now in 2022 or 2023, according to the last video that I shared on Access Vegas. So remember, this is kind of dated material and it gets worse. Okay, 8 out of 10 are in contact with the backup man. 15% said their feelings were stronger for the backup man. 50% said their partner was aware of the backup man. 1 out of 5 admitted the backup man was a friend of the partner. And 1 out of 10 said that the backup man had already confessed their undying love, which I think is kind of silly. But anyways, there it is. So let's reiterate this. What should we expect from a theoretical grounds? Oh wait, what do you actually see? Women cheat with when the relationship is bad. Yeah. Well, they also happen to keep Plan B of 43% in 2016 and now 70% in 2022, 2023 do the same thing. They have what was it? Chris Rock says it's the dick in the glass case. Break in case of emergency. So what do they actually see when their relationship is bad? When they are dissatisfied emotionally and not necessarily sexually. A large majority of women fall in love with the affair partner and express a desire for the affair partner as long-term mates. Well, considering that they probably had that guy as a backup plan, at least 70% of them, that's unsurprising. Affairs are highly damaging to the maintenance of the relationship with the primary partner, probably in ways male infidelity would not have been in an ancestral environment, because unfaithful women have the high desire to leave primary relationships and unfaithful men do not. Yeah, well, because men are primarily looking for sex, right? I think we can establish. If we're going to talk shit about people, I think it's always safe to talk shit about men, right? Yes, men just want to get their dicks wet. Well, yeah, variety. Men are always looking for sexual variety. That's like fucking saying water's wet, right? But the fact of the matter is that there's still a component that is the alpha fuck side of all of that. And again, all this is, the only reason we even focus on mate switching is because it sounds better. It sounds more responsible. It's like responsible fucking cheating, right? It could never be that they just want to get hammered, right? It could never be like the whole reason I'm even bringing this up is because when we're talking about friends with benefits, it's all about the fucking sex, because the beta buck side, the long-term security side, is already accounted for. So if you're having a friends with benefits relationship, or whatever it passes, I don't even call it a relationship, it's all based about all sex and no emotional investment. If that is the case, even just marginally the case, it disproves mate switching hypothesis. It proves that women will get into sexual relationships with guys and by disassociating the emotional aspect from the sexual act. If that's the case, we have to reconsider mate switching. Okay, that's number one. The other thing is mate switching is all about infidelity. It's not about an actual mating strategy. Again, the only reason we even look at mate switching, we're looking at it as a reason for infidelity. I'm going beyond that. I'm saying, what gets people together in the fucking first place? Genetic benefits versus long-term security benefits, and trying to find the perfect balance between those two. Ergo, dual mating strategy. End of fucking story. Okay. Oh, look what we have here. Let's see if we can back this up. Here we go. Of all the forms of casual sex, friends with benefits relationships have the most to offer, bringing together the best of all worlds. While not for everyone, casual sex, I wish he would make a distinction here, is quite common despite overall levels of sexual intimacy being at a 30-year low. Casual sex encounters vary between hookups, one-night stands, and friends with benefits. Okay, so he's actually throwing all of these into the same thing. Among those, friends with benefits tends to be the most advantageous and safe. For instance, emerging adults who have sex with a friend at least once describe it positively, regardless of gender. Benefits can include greater sexual confidence, agency, and satisfaction in a relationship that is typically experienced as more psychologically safe. The quality of sexual experience tends to increase with a sense of safety and familiarity. The convenience of sex with a trusted friend can eliminate the effort of a more serious romantic relationship and reduce the risks of sex with strangers. More friends with benefits relationships do end without transitioning into romantic relationships. 80% of those who ended a friends with benefits, well, that means 20% actually formed a relationship, ended a friends with benefits relationship, were still friends. Caution is advised for those who fall in love easily, have challenging attachment histories, or clearly want a committed relationship. So this puts the lie to fucking mate switching hypothesis right here. Okay, if friends with benefits situations can be healthy, if friends with benefits situations, because assuming we're going by the classic definition of an FWB. We're looking at all sexual interest and no emotional attachment, no emotional investment, nothing more than just fucking conveniently because it feels good and you're with a friend and it's safe because it's not a stranger, it's your friend. So if that's the case, where does that leave mate switching hypothesis? In the fucking dumpster where it fucking belongs, because women will fuck and will want to are just fine with having just sex without emotion, without long-term security investment, and without any pretense of that ever being. So if that's the case, if that even exists in a marginal percentage, it puts the lie to mate switching hypothesis, which, by the way, is just a contrivance for guys, well-established evolutionary psychologists who should fucking know better. It's all a fucking money grab. It's all something that it's all to sell the latest fucking dating application or the latest dating site, which of course is what Alex from Datepsych is trying to do, is like pass off some new matchmaking service, which also, by the way, so did Dr. David Buss and failed as far back as 2020. And that was about the time that he decided that he wanted to backpedal on ovulatory shift and backpedal on dual mating. Same with Gangstad. Same with a lot of guys who should technically know better. And really, they realize no one's going to call them on it because it sounds good and it makes women feel better that if they're cheating, it's because the guy didn't fucking measure up. Here's the thing. What sounds better? Women cheat because the man's not living up. He's not qualifying. He's not actually the best she can do. Her needs aren't being met. The guy is not measuring up. He's not the guy that I married. He's not the guy that I thought he was going to be. He hasn't made anything of himself. He hasn't maximized his potential. I don't have the same feelings for him anymore. I'm going to cheat on him and move up. And I kind of have to do it. And it almost seems as if it's justifiable. More justifiable than a woman saying, well, I really love my husband and I don't have any problem with him. He's a great fucking guy. He's almost too perfect, but you know what? I fucked Jason Momoa. I fucked Justin Waller. I fucked Jack Reacher because you know what? They had big dicks and they really fuck really, really good. Which one of those two scenarios sounds better if we're trying to sell a fucking matchmaking program? Which one of those sounds the best? Probably not the one that puts the lie to women's visceral interest in fucking sex. And ladies, there's nothing wrong with you being interested in just fucking, really. Please keep doing it. This is not immoral. I'm not moralizing. Please do what you're going to keep doing because you're going to do it whether I say you should or you shouldn't. Okay. This is not a moral issue. This is just me pointing out the fucking obvious. What sounds better? Oh, I had to leave him because he wasn't meeting my needs. He wasn't measuring up. He wasn't emotionally available. And so I had to trade up. Oh, so, I only did what I had to do and it's justified. It's okay. It sounds better than I met this guy in the club and he had a fucking 10-inch cock. That sounds way better. So bear that in mind. Oh, wait, there's a second part to this. The only factor that predicted a positive emotional outcome from casual sex was being a man. So we have to throw that into the mix on top of everything else. And just for shits and giggles, I decided to throw this in there as well. Using data on males aged 18 to 59, yes, current measures of muscularity are significantly positively associated with the number of total sexual partners and partners in the past year. So if it was just about resources and emotional needs and women's needs and being emotionally available and whatever, what else did he say on here? Like these have not been in. Okay, so trying to see what was the criteria here. It's transitioning from one long-term partner to another long-term partner because the guy's just not fucking measuring up. I love you, but I'm not in love with you, right? Well, guess what? The more ripped you are and the more muscular you are. Funny thing is guys who are in the 18 to 59-year-old demographic, those guys do fucking pretty well in the sexual marketplace. I wonder why that is. Probably not because of mate shifting hypothesis. All right, that's it. That's my story. I'm out of here. Let's see, Kyle, what do we have to do? Where are we at? Access Vegas is coming back. We're back in the studio on Thursday of next week, same time. I was not able to get to Babes in Toyland. I was really hoping I was going to be able to, but I had other things that got in the way. Miami. Mike and I will be in Miami on the week of May. It'll be the week of the 14th through the 19th. We've already scheduled Adam Sosnick. We're going to be on Valuetainment on that Thursday, which I want to say is the 16th. We'll be at Babes in Toyland in Miami. The White Party, which is always fun, is huge. It's probably the biggest Babes in Toyland event I think that they do. That will be on the 18th of May. I'll be there for that. You're probably going to see that on my Instagram. You probably won't see it. You definitely won't see it on YouTube. And then we'll be on with Myron and Fresh. We'll be on Fresh and Fit out there during that week. And I'm working out. Hopefully I'll get it nailed down this week, but I'm going to be on the Danza project as well. If we can nail that one down and make that work for us as well. And I might come in and do a takeover of Miguel's Hex Crypto show next week. Please don't tell him I'm coming. I'm going to come in here. See, I got the magic 8-ball, and then I got the magic conch.
If I had thumbs, I would point them both down. and also slap you.
So that's the conch. Wait. The conch, the mighty conch meets the mighty holy magic 8-ball. Oh, wait. Which one is it? I can't see. I need to get more juice in this. It is definitely so. Okay, so here we go. Got it. See, the magic conch and the mighty magic 8-ball have come together. They've joined forces in Red One Studios. Put those over here. All right, guys. Let me get to the last of these. Is there any more? Did I miss any super chats? I got 3 more left here. What do we got? A man is hypergamous when he has options with multiple females. Okay, I already got to you. Only women are hypergamous, my friend. You know why? Because men don't have attraction floors. Women have attraction floors. That's why women are only hypergamous. Okay. They have attraction floors. Like men will, like if a guy is a 6, he'll happily fuck an 8, happily fuck a 7, happily fuck a 6, and probably happily fuck a 5 if he's got 3 beers in him. Women, not so much. For the doggos, hi Rolo, say hi to Ned for the cheese tax. Cheese tax. Oh, yes. The truth is the truth and the facts is the facts. If you want to pet the dog, then you got to pay the tax. John Dredd, and I know who you are. A caution for your primary demo. The ex-missus was one of 4 stripper fuck buddies. Just because you think it's just sex doesn't mean she won't try to lock him down. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Well, and once again, dual mating strategy. Alpha fucks, beta bucks. Doesn't necessarily, just because she enjoys fucking that guy doesn't mean she won't try to lock that guy down too. Okay. Or baby trap him. Fresh. Fresh has been the victim of dual mating strategy. Just want to point that out there.
He's a victim. Fresh
is the living embodiment of the cognitive dissonance of the dual mating strategy. See, now before, I got it. Let me see if I can soften the blow here. I'll see if I sugarcoat. I don't like to sugarcoat things, but let me see if I can sugarcoat this a little bit. I'm not bringing this shit up to be a dick, okay? I'm bringing this stuff up because there's too much misinformation. There's too much false presumptions. It's all pretentious bullshit is what it is. And it's usually based on a deliberate misunderstanding. It's what I've said in the past is confident ignorance. People are confident in their ignorance. When I started today's show, I threw on what's her face, Dr. Sydney Watson, which, by the way, the challenge is still on the table here. Anytime you're ready. But primarily, she's making a living off of her confidence in her ignorance. And if there's one thing that I think needs correcting, and that I will keep doing, as long as I keep doing this, is to correct people's misinformation and misperceptions of things. One of the reasons why I say Pearl Davis is the worst thing to ever happen to this space is because she helps perpetuate the straw man arguments that people who really hate, who in Sydney Watson's case, really hate the red pill because they don't know what the fuck it is. I've had people lately say, well, what has the red pill ever done that's good? They don't save lives. They fucking, make incels radical. They radicalize incels, right? And I everybody who watches my show already knows that this is bullshit. Okay? They already know that it has saved lives. I can show you. I can go to one of my old posts right now called the safety net, right? And show you at least 1,100 testimonials, let's just say, for what my book and what the red pill in general has done for them, and essentially stop people from taking their own lives. So if that's a net benefit, then so be it. You go fuck yourself, and I will be the first one to tell you why you're fucking wrong. And 90% of the reason why most of these guys are wrong is they simply don't have any frame of reference. They don't know what the red pill is. They just see Andrew Tate. They just see fucking Pearl Davis, and they look fucking ridiculous. They feed them cheap fucking easy content that they think lines up with their convictions, which are basically, as I said before, empty convictions based on an empty faith, based on an empty God. Okay. You're a disgrace to your fucking God if you're going to like throw moralism in here and not back it up. Yes, I'm saying that right now. You worship a fucking false God if you make these assertions based on a moralism that you think everybody is universal, and you won't come in here and you won't fucking defend it. You're a charlatan and you're a fake and you're a fraud, and your God is a fake and a fraud. Now, do I think that personally? No, but you are. And that's the God that you worship, and that you worship fakeness. You worship bullshit. You worship a fucking straw man because you're basing your assertions based on that moralism that is just simply false and fake. So if that's how you're going to say it, you're essentially taking your God's name in vain, that you pretend to speak for that fucking God. Okay. So don't come in here and until you can come correct, shut the fuck up, Sydney Watson. Shut the fuck up, whoever else wants to make a moralistic, pretense to all this bullshit. So shut the fuck up. Yes, I'm telling you to shut the fuck up. Until you can defend it. Until you can tell me to shut the fuck up. You can tell me to shut the fuck up by coming in here and defending your position. Until then, you're empty. Empty as your convictions, empty as your faith. But I wouldn't say the same thing about, like, say, someone like Alex or somebody like Mac and Murphy. I'm starting to warm up to a little bit more. But I think that most of the deliberate or otherwise, the misunderstandings that these guys have is they base their, as I pointed out here, they base their points and their assertions on false assumptions. They think something, they think, oh, the red pill says this. No, they don't. And you don't have the fact that you are too lethargic to seek out what they're really talking about, instead of just saying, well, Andrew Tate always says, fuck Andrew Tate, fuck Pearl, man. Like, go look at the source material. Go look at what it's really about. Like, because until you do, you're a hindrance to the people who would have killed themselves had they not found this material. They know something that you don't fucking know. They know something well enough that to say that this is the reason why I canceled my date with suicide. So there must be something going on. There must be something that is specifically helping these guys to the point where they're making testimonials like this, where I can show you a handwritten note right now if I wanted to. Right? So there must be something else that's going on, but you don't care because you're too lethargic and you want cheap fucking content. And you want low effort, low investment, drive-by bullshit. Prove me wrong. Please fucking come in here and prove me wrong. I'm begging you. Come on. Right here on the fucking chin. Come on, man. I'll let you take the first fucking shot. Come in here and sit down and tell me what you think is true. And I'll be happy to dissuade you. I'll be happy to disabuse you of that fucking idiocy. Because right now, most of the shit that I see is just based on straw man arguments. And that's why Pearl got no business. And that's why Tate got no business doing what he's doing. Like, he's just digging himself in deeper and deeper. So with that said, I hate to leave you guys on a down note, but that's what's going on. Kyle, we're going to try to do a midweek. Okay. We're going to try to do a midweek, and I've decided that I'm going to do midweek interviews, or I'm going to do, like, right now, like, I think we're going to reserve Sundays just for, like, myself. And if I want Ryan on, I might bring Ryan on, but I think I'm going to start doing some interviews with some individuals in Las Vegas. And if you want to do a interview with me, or you would like to be on the show, love me or hate me, I don't care. If you want to come on the show via remote, or if you happen to be in Las Vegas and you would like to maybe spend an hour with me, you're welcome to come to this studio. It's that, by the way, that invitation and challenge, that invitation is open to anybody. So I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to see if I can get Domo on. I think she'd be a fun one to do. Trying to think who else. There's some girls on Access Vegas that are very good friends of mine now, that I'd really like to get in here. There's some guys I want to get Hide Yamagishi in here one more time. That'd be sick. Just a one-hour. That'd be a really good interview. Yeah. We'll talk about we talk about like red pill stuff, but I really want to get into the fitness side with them, because people keep saying, "Oh, Rollo, he's all yoked, man." Like, yeah, I happen to work out at the same gym as Hide Yamagishi, IFBB world champion 2023. So that's coming up. And what else do I have coming up? Miami's coming up. Oh, one more thing. Yes, I am. People keep asking me about Jedediah Bila. Jedediah Bila is in Montana right now. And I don't know why she decided on Montana, but I think she said it's somewhere near Bozeman or some shit like that. I don't know specifically where it is, so I can't really sell her out. But she's restarting her channel, and she gives me hope, man, because she's still sticking to the material. She's still sticking to her guns, and I think she's going to do well once she gets things back up and going. But I have put the invitation for her to come to Las Vegas, and if we do it, that's going to be an event, and I'm definitely going to get Mike in on that. We'll do a one-on-one, and maybe we'll have her on with the girls or something like that. We'll host her finally. But now she's a lot closer, so we're working on that. And James Sexton, if I can drag James Sexton down to Miami during the 14th through the 19th, I'm working on him. So guys, if you happen to know James Sexton, like, lean on him a little bit and say, you should go down to Miami when the boys are there. So that would be fun. All right, guys, that's it for today. Please, if you haven't picked up the book, you can pick up the book at Amazon. The link is the very first link in the description. Also, Men of Action. It's the only real like mentorship program, I guess, that I endorse. It's a bottom up approach rather than a top down. We're not trying to save the fucking world. We're trying to save one guy at a time. Okay. Also, I talked to Joe Marin. People have been asking me about this because I made this announcement like a couple weeks ago. Through MOA, myself and a good friend of mine, Joe Marin, we are going to be doing a 45 to 65-year-old demographic outreach program, reintegration to the sexual marketplace program through MOA. And we don't have exactly all the particulars down just yet, but there will be at least a source material book that I'm working on right now. It's going to be a very small book. And then we're going to be doing live events. We're going to be doing meetups. We're going to be doing Zoom calls and such. We're going to have different levels of engagement here. First one is going to be just like meetups. That will probably start here in Vegas, but we'll be doing meetups at various locations around the country. So we're going to be doing that. We're also going to be doing larger scale ones too, where we might have like, I don't want to call it a mastermind because I think that's played out, but we're going to be doing like some talks and stuff like that as well. But we're also going to be doing some activities because I'm of the opinion that men communicate better when they're actually doing something at the same time. So this is not going to be one of those schmaltzy, Christian men conference, let's get together. No, we're going to meet in like Miami and go deep sea fishing. Right. And it's going to be limited, people who can show up to this. We'll probably be in Lake Tahoe. I want to do one in Tahoe because that's where I'm from, or partially where I'm from. So I would like to do something in Tahoe. We'll probably do something in Colorado, maybe Aspen, or maybe we can get to Vail if it's the wintertime. We'd like to do something in Cabo. We're going to do something in Orange County and in San Diego and California, definitely Miami. So we've got some events that we kind of have in the sort of the planning stages right now. But we're going to do proof of concept kind of meetups between now and then, but we're launching the whole thing. We haven't got a name for it yet. I'm just keep calling it like the Gentleman's Club or something like that. But it's going to be specifically for guys that are 45 to 65 years old who are trying to reintegrate themselves back into the sexual marketplace, who don't necessarily want to go to Zook or Hakkasan or Omnia or like some loud, one of these club things that's really loud and everything, because it's not their scene, right? They would much rather be in a lounge setting or like outdoors kind of thing, maybe by the ocean or something, like in an environment where they can talk and people can actually make some communications, because they're just not into that. It's fun once or twice, but it's not really their speed. So we're working on putting together a program for guys who are between the ages of 45 and 65. And that is deliberate because 45 to 65 is the prime demographic for male suicide. And that's why we pick that demographic in particular. So to sort of show guys that they can rebuild themselves instead of erasing themselves, and they can do something better, and they can reinvent themselves rather than deleting themselves. So that's really the basis of it. And I mean, it's going to be high ticket for some of these. It won't all of them be, they won't all be really super high ticket, but whatever we decide the membership is going to be, it's also going to include a membership into MOA. That's how we have the Men of Action connection right there as well. So our launch date will be July 1st, officially for July 1st. So we're still, the reason for that is we're still settling the details, and I'm probably about a third of the way through the book right now. So So that's coming up. And hardback edition of The Rational Male will be coming out in May. I've already got the first round of edits is done. It's all, the book's clearly already written. I'm rewriting it for syntax, spelling errors. I'm increasing the point size of the book, obviously, because that's the number one complaint, is that the type was too small. So I'm doing that as well. So these are some things that are coming up, and I will also be making appearances at Wet Republic bikini contests. It's a tough job, I know. Somebody's got to do this shit. I might as well be me. Got to go there. And then I'm really looking forward to the Miami Babes in Toyland White Party, which will be coming up during that week. So watch Instagram, watch this space, and that's what we're doing right now. Guys, thank you very much for watching today. I appreciate each and every one of you. And where is my outro music? There it is. All right, guys. See you later. See you next week. Bye.
I need to feel you on top of me. It was my first time, but I was just a kid when we met and went to bed. It was my first time. What do you expect from me? I'm breaking up the rules now in the game. I've got some new tools. Please do the same. Time came by when open like a matchbox stereo. My thoughts now let go. Bound to keep me up all night. But maybe we can fuck again, and maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Won't you put it on me one more again? I need to know if maybe we can fuck again, then maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. That's in my life. Now we're fucking in the bathroom, tearing up every wall. Why don't got your hair? Why you screaming my name? She was swinging in the bedroom, whole time stopping and stuffing with her hair like she's calling you Kelly. So baby, come ride me up and down like a pony, turning up my song, getting nasty, working up and down on your body. Ride me up and down like a pony, turning up my song on your body. Baby, we'll get down to it all night. But maybe we can fuck again, and maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. Won't you put it on me one more again? I need to know if maybe we can fuck again, then maybe things are different. Goddamn, baby, one more again. If maybe we can fuck again, and maybe things are different.